afternoon. I was confident earlier today that things would kind of clear up a little bit and I'd be able to get home this afternoon. Not sure how I feel about that after seeing the videos that my wife sent me and that Damien sent us. I don't know. We'll see. We'll try to get a little update on the weather, see what's going down. And your flight to Birmingham is when?
1 o'clock local, 12 o'clock Birmingham time, and currently, knock on wood, on time. So okay. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but maybe Birmingham has found some type of salt surplus, because I'm going to be a little surprised if if that thing's going today. We'll see.
We will see. Damien, what is your just kind of vantage point of the weather quickly? I know you're not able to venture out too much, but from what you saw high atop Red Mountain and able to kind of get a look around, what was the first thing you noticed early this morning?
It's thick, and it's definitely sticking. We were kind of on that fringe, at least when you saw the weather reports leading up until this morning, that we kind of were that bottom, the tip top, the bottom part of the what could be potential wintry mix, or will it be snow? Oh, it was definitely snow. And when we woke up this morning, it was a complete blanket outside. So if really, really advise people, if you do not have to get behind the wheel and travel, just stay put, because I think this may stick around for a while.
Give us a listen here as we're going to recap last night's Orange Bowl, and it was an absolute classic. We talked about it yesterday, Greg, being an old school style football game. Talked about it being just a bit of a slobber knocker. It was for 3 quarters. Then we got the fourth quarter. 31 points combined by these two teams in the fourth quarter. Second most in a game in college football history, only behind 40 from Alabama and Clemson in the 2016 national championship game. All of a sudden, everybody got aggressive. Everybody found offense. Everybody made plays in the fourth quarter, and it was a track meet back and forth, which we had not seen really anything the likes of for the first 3 quarters. Notre Dame's now won 13 straight, longest active win streak in the FBS. We've mentioned the resolve of this football team and the guts of this football team that Marcus Freeman has this year. I don't know if you and I could sit down and write a report that would convince people of just to the extent that they've got it and the things that they've overcome. The injuries last night, Greg, goodness gracious. I mean, we joked about Jagasol yesterday. This dude's in there pulling around near the goal line, knocking people out of the way. He's like a real factor in the game. You lose 2 more offensive linemen in this game. Jeremiah Love looks like he's dinged up and not going to be 100% for the first half, and then all of a sudden he's just running through people. Looks like Adrian Peterson in the third and fourth quarter. I mean, it was just an unbelievable game, man. I'm jealous you're able to be on the call for it, because I can only imagine what it felt like in the booth being able to talk about it on air.
Well, I'm jealous you got to just sit there and consume it. You know what I mean? Because I was going nuts, but when you're working, it's hard to really capture just how insane what it was that you were watching. You referenced Jagusaw. Dude, he had the block of the game. Come that kick out on the touchdown going to the left-hand side, right? I mean, he had a couple good blocks in the game. I think what's most remarkable is that this team struggled in the first half block, and Abdul Carter and struggled block in the front for the most part, kind of across the board. And then here we go. We fast forward to the second half. They've now lost their left tackle and their right guard, and they're playing better. How is that possible? To think that the backups, a guy in Tosh Baker at left tackle, 6'8", 330, look how big. And the guy has been a massive liability in pass protection his whole career. He's a 5th-year senior, has never been more than a situational player because of how much of a liability he's been. And he's in there handling Dani Dennis Sutton and Abdul Carter. He got beat one time by the backup defensive end number 15, Vanover. But other than that, he was rock solid. It was just a really gutsy performance from Notre Dame. They kind of do what they always do. They just wait for the other team to make a mistake, and then they pounce. Because that game, let's be real, if Drew Aller doesn't throw that pick, I don't know if they win the game in regulation. I think it's highly unlikely they win the game in regulation. But I also wonder, I mean, how much is left in the tank, too? I mean, their defensive line had been exposed to over 70 snaps. They only have 3 guys in the rotation at defensive tackle. Like, they've been able to run the football. Like, even the play before the interception, they had like a 12-yard gain on a pretty simple outside zone. And sure enough, like, I don't think that the longer that game went, the worse it was going to go for Notre Dame, I think. So to find a way to get it done and to get across the finish line before fatigue could really set in is something that is just remarkable, man. They're such a fun team to watch, Notre Dame is. They really are.
There's no doubt. How many times during the course of this game did you believe one or the other team was out, was done, was on the mat, and was not going to make it back up by the end of that standing 8 count?
Notre Dame was in big trouble. Like, big trouble. And dude, they were getting pushed back badly in the first half. I didn't think they'd be able to stop the run. I really didn't. I mean, they were at 26 carries for 141 yards, and they had no answer for the perimeter stretch zone. And then as the wash got pushed too far and contain, Singleton and Allen were just cutting up. It was like a 90-degree angle, like 5 steps left, then 90 degrees straight up into the line. And they had no answer for it. I mean, they were probably averaging 6-7 yards play on that type of run. And I was thinking to myself, like, this ain't going to get better. So until I watched the film back today and really, really dial in, the only thing I could sense, and if you could tell from a distance where you were, that they just were stacking the box and saying, these receivers can't beat us. We'll put every resource we have into stopping the run, and they just completely sold out against it, which makes the decision of Andy Kotelnicki not to throw deep at least once, maybe twice, all the more puzzling.
They needed at least a couple of those shots. We talked about it. We mentioned it with both teams, really, that they were going to have those and just couldn't. And as you stated, there were multiple times that I looked up and I thought Notre Dame was done. There was a couple of times in the fourth I thought Penn State was done. And just both teams kept battling back. And just one massive mistake from Drew Aller late, which we can be mad at Drew Aller, but it's not like Riley Leonard put his team in great spots late in the fourth. I mean, he throws a pick to give Penn State great field position, which you think is just going to hammer that game down, and that's going to be it. It's going to be over. It was just an awesome back-and-forth football game. And when that drive was put together by Penn State late in the first half, I thought that was the end for Notre Dame. I didn't. Yeah. I said, man, if they're moving the ball like this, I couldn't believe Marcus Freeman didn't take a timeout right there before the half. You could have caught a timeout and then had the 2-minute break also to just rest your defense a little bit. As thin as they were up front going into this game, you knew that was going to be a little bit of a problem. But, I mean, that's unlike a drive I've seen in the college football playoff. I mean, it was 15 plays, 90 yards, and they're just gutting it out.
7 minutes.
Run after run after run after run. It's like Allen, Singleton, Allen, Tyler Warren making guys miss. He's like playing backyard football at quarterback, and they couldn't stop him. And I just thought to myself going into the break, man, I know it's a 7-point game, but it just doesn't feel like Notre Dame's going to be able to slow that down. As you stated, they found the answer, and I thought Golden was aggressive early. I couldn't believe all the A-gap pressure he was bringing right out of the gate, like 2nd and 4, and you're double mugs, bringing both linebackers up the A-gaps. I'm like, okay, I guess. And then they caught him on a screen. It didn't feel like Notre Dame's night early in that game. And it says even more to Marcus Freeman and his team, just kind of what they've been able to battle back from this year.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is, like, the only thing they had going early was the screen game. And Al Golden was like, I don't care. I'm still going to blitz. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, well, I wouldn't really want to blitz against a team that's screening you to death. But he just didn't care.
Tight end in those backs.
Oh, gosh. He doesn't care. Like, Al Golden, and I think that there's a conversation to be had here. It might be an off-season conversation, but maybe one that we can have next week. But, dude, the quality of the coordinators that's remaining currently in the college football playoff is off the charts good. I mean, Al Golden is like 10-plus excellent on defense as a coordinator. Like, amazing. I think he's so good. I think he's so thoughtful. He's so aggressive. He empowers his guys. They think they can run through brick walls, all of them. He's just a phenomenal defensive coordinator. And then on offense, I mean, we all know what Mike Denbrock is at LSU last year and with what he's done at Notre Dame this year. Like, that guy's unbelievable, has been forever. And then on the other side, I mean, Andy Kotelnicki has been great for a very long time, dating back to his time at Buffalo and Kansas and what he's done already this year. They're more explosive this year by they're 50% better on explosive plays this year than they were a year ago. It's absurd when you think about the improvement in that area by itself. And then on defense, Tom Allen, who's the defensive coordinator for Penn State, incredible. On the other side, you got Texas with Kwiatkowski and Sark. They have a better combination of those two. And then with Ohio State, Jim Knowles and Chip Kelly. Like, the coordinators in the semifinals are just outrageously good. And it was kind of on display last night. Like, Golden had to find it a little bit. Like, he was searching. Kotelnicki was 2 or 3 steps ahead. And then, sure enough, man, they did. They did. And I think Kotelnicki will probably regret a couple of the calls in the game. But for all intents and purposes, man, you got to give a ton of credit to how Notre Dame battled and just continued to make plays.
There's no doubt. It's 27-24. Notre Dame gets the win, and people are going to bang on James Franklin, Drew Aller, but in an absolute classic. Just a classic of a football game. I don't know how you could watch that game and not enjoy it. Because you had at times great plays up front on defense. You had two teams that found ways to run the football. You had guys playing their rear ends off. I mean, you had a do-it-all Tyler Warren performance. At least they tried to make it there. How you went the first 2 possessions and didn't target him, I still have no idea. That's one I couldn't handle last night watching the game. You had a game-winning field goal, which has never happened in the college football playoff before. That happens for the first time ever last night. Players getting knocked out of the game, substitutes coming in and being a part of the game. Let's not forget, we're going to talk about all these other guys for Notre Dame. Riley Leonard was knocked out of this game for a moment. His head hit the turf. He goes to the tent, and here comes Steve Angeli. 6 of 7, 44 yards. I talked to him on the field after the game. I said, "Did you think Denbrock was going to have you out there just pitching it around?" And he kind of laughed and said, "Honestly, no, but I'm ready to run the offense." And that's what he asked me to do. I love the fact that Denbrock didn't go conservative and just hand it off on every play. I mean, he went out there and let the kid pitch it around. He looked pretty good.
Dude, Angeli's a dude. Like, that guy's a stud. Like, he's really good. Super accurate, just innately accurate. A guy that they said if it wasn't Riley Leonard that went in the portal because of his mobility and how difficult he was to defend for Notre Dame last year, then they would have been perfectly fine with Angeli being their starting quarterback. Like a team guy, a throwback. Fine, I'll be a backup. That's fine. When I get my chance, though, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to try to make sure I'm not coming out. But think about that, man, to steal 3 points. And it really wasn't even as much about the 3 points. It was more about showing the team, hey, we can move it on these guys. At that point, it was 10-0 when he went in the ball game, and Notre Dame had done nothing offensively. They had 15 yards rushing at the time. They had very little going on that side of the ball. So for him to at least show the entire sideline that, hey, these guys are human. They put their pants on one leg at a time, and guess what? They're not impenetrable, was enormous. So, and to do it with the backup quarterback gave them even more confidence. But it's a testament to what they've built, man. Like, Marcus Freeman's a complete stud and had Angeli ready to go, had the backup lineman ready to go, have had multiple defensive tackles ready to go. They've lost 3 defensive linemen, 3 starting defensive linemen. Their best player on the team in their corner, Benjamin Morrison. They've lost countless guys all throughout the season, and it hasn't mattered. The next man up mentality, and that's a culture thing. So, yeah, Angeli going in there and ripping was a huge contributing factor. Way more than the 3 points. That field goal might as well have been worth 10 points, I think, just with the psyche you had going in the locker room, knowing that you would get the ball coming out of half.
Yeah, you mean right before the half, that field goal. I thought it was absolutely massive. I mean, it was just a must-have to show that you had any sort of life, that you could be in that game in any shape, form, or fashion, and they were able to get it and grab a little bit of that momentum. I want to come back to not only some of those injuries we're going to talk about later in the show, the freshmen that are contributing to this football team for Notre Dame also. We're going to have Joe Cook for you at 7:30. Bill Rabunowitz is going to join us at 8:20. Both of those are going to talk about this game coming up tonight against Ohio State and Texas. Joe covers the Texas Longhorns. Bill covers Ohio State. And we'll get their thoughts on, number one, the weather over there in Dallas. Looked a little treacherous based on some of the videos I saw yesterday. But it sounds like Stanford Steve and the guys were able to fly in last night, so people are moving around. Get some updates on that, and then just get a preview of that game coming up tonight. A lot more on the game from last night. As GMAC was on the call, I was in the stadium doing some pre- and post-game radio. Just amazing to be there and be a part of that one. It was truly an honor just to be in that stadium and watch that football game, the way both teams competed. So many different players that we didn't talk about stepped up and made massive plays in that game, and we're going to get to all of them across the course of the show here today. Jocks 94.5, JocksFM.com. You can listen on live. Search JOX 945 on YouTube. 800-239-9569. You want to get in, talk about this game, you can do that. Tweet in at Mac and Cube, and we'll be back to continue the discussion next on WJOX. All right, we'll talk to Joe Cook, who covers the Texas Longhorns, in 10 minutes. Get his thoughts on that game coming up tonight. Incredible game last night. And, Greg, I was talking about the Iron Bowl, or the Orange Bowl, excuse me. Listen, we're both going to make some mistakes today. I think I'm running on 4 hours of sleep right now.
That's pretty
G Mac
good.
about the same. As he had to
No,
get up
I'm
and
on.
get
I'm
the-
on a little less than that. 4 hours though is that's way more than I thought you were gonna get. That's pretty good.
I mean,
can get
listen,
by with that.
I don't know numbers right now. I'm not even sure what time I woke up today. I'm trying to see what time you texted the group last night. 12:59. You texted the group. Did you make it back to the hotel? And we were
That was-
probably 500 yards away from the stadium. We get over the little overpass to go down the interstate, and they have the interstate blocked, the entire interstate, not one lane. They're blocking the exit, and there's no traffic on the interstate for I don't know which team it was coming through in their motorcade. I think they counted 11 buses and all the police cars and everything with them. And so we had to sit there and wait for that because we could see them in the distance way down the road. And then they came by, and then obviously you're trying to get on the interstate. So I think we got to the hotel probably about 1:30, 1:45 because, of course, they're doing road construction near our hotel, and the exit's closed. Why? I mean, of course, like do road work during one of the biggest events in the year for the city. No, why not? Why wouldn't you do that? Seems like it works.
Makes perfect sense.
Didn't work for us last night, but yeah, either way. I'm beginning to compile this list that I'm looking at right now. We talk about what Notre Dame has overcome this year. I don't know another team. You go back to what you said. Benjamin Morrison leaves early in the season. He's out. He can't go anymore. So you have to rely on freshman Leonard Moore, and he ends up having a great year. Ashton Craig, offensive lineman, goes out beginning of the year. Charles Jagasaw goes out beginning of the year. So you're already having to move some offensive linemen around, and you don't really know how that group's going to look. So fast forward to the actual playoff, and you get Riley Mills, who goes out against Indiana. Like you said, one of your best defensive players, one of your best players, period. He's done for the next 2 games. Jeremiah Love leaves the Georgia game. Xavier Watts leaves the Georgia game. Riley Leonard leaves the Penn State game. Anthony Knapp leaves the Penn State game. Rocco Spiller leaves the Penn State game. Flanagan, tight end, Cooper Flanagan left the Georgia game, didn't play against Penn State. And somehow you're able to just keep going. You relied on freshman Anthony Knapp to come in and play really good football for you this year. You look at Aeneas Williams last night, making plays at running back, freshman for this Notre Dame football team. Leonard Moore, who you talked about at corner, freshman, making plays last night. How about Kingston Viliamu Asa last night, making plays, rushing off the edge, like bull rush, just bulling the Penn State tackles back into the lap of the quarterback. Greg, I don't know another team that could have overcome this and be in the spot that Notre Dame's in right now, especially not this year. Not another team, no.
And in today's day and age in college football, I mean, you really think about it. Think about what happened when Tate Ratledge went down for Georgia, right? The Georgia Bulldogs. When Tate Ratledge went out for them, what happened to their offensive line? I mean, like, goodness gracious alive. They were awful, right? Everybody else just completely tripped over themselves. Think about Georgia last year. Think about when they lost Mims for 6 or 7 weeks. Like, think about how much of an impact that made. And they've now lost Ashton Craig, the center. The left tackle, Jagasaw, was supposed to be the starter going in. Anthony Knapp goes in. He gets hurt in this game. Jagisaw's back in the game at right guard. Like, they've lost a million guys. And the problem now in college football is that when you get injuries and when you lose guys, you get so young that you make all these catastrophic mistakes and it ultimately gets you beat. They're young and it doesn't matter. Like, their freshmen are all playing at a ridiculous level. And they're not like all 5-star bona fide blue chip can't miss prospects either. Like, Leonard Moore was a good prospect, but no one thought he'd be as good as Benjamin Morrison in his first year as college football player. And that guy's a bona fide top 10 pick today. And he's got 2 years of eligibility left. So there's a lot to be said about that, but I also think just opportunistic plays too. Like, Donovan Heinisch isn't some NFL star. Gabriel Rubio at this point of his development is not some, burgeoning take over the game defensive tackle, but he knows his role. He plays it well. He doesn't have an ego, and he does what he needs to do to allow his team success, to free up some of the other guys on the offensive and defensive, free up some of the other guys against offensive linemen that could actually have some type of pass rush or opportunity. So I think it's just a really good team. And like you said, man, it's just, I don't think there's any teams that could overcome this type of turnover from 1 week to the next.
It's been wild to see what this Notre Dame team has done. And they go get their 7th top 25 win of the season last night. Like I said, nation's longest winning streak right now for the Irish as well. It's been remarkable to watch. And we'll talk more about how they won that football game last night. But we're going to turn the page and begin to discuss tonight's game and get a feel for what it's going to look like in Dallas. Ohio State, Texas. Joe Cook covers the Texas Longhorns. He'll be with us on the other side to help us discuss it, what he thinks the Horns have to do to stay competitive in that game. Apparently it's cold there. Apparently it's snowing there. Don't get caught in it. Schedule your system checkup now from a Trane comfort specialist. Trane has been recognized 10 consecutive years as America's most trusted HVAC brand and our exclusive home comfort partners here at Jocks. Visit Trane.com to find a comfort specialist near you. All right, we'll take that break. Come back. Ask Joe Cook, how does Texas knock off Ohio State tonight? Right after this on McElroy and Kublik in the morning. Friday, January 10th, Jocks 94.5, 8:31 a.m. where I am, 7:31 a.m. where you are. GMAC at Hartsfield International. I'm supposed to get out later today. Not sure if I feel great about it. We'll see how it goes. First, I'll tell you about our friends at Game Day Men's Health. If you're feeling on edge, if you're lacking sleep, if you lack energy, well, Game Day Men's Health wants to help you, and they can do that. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com right now. You can schedule a free consultation that includes a free PSA test, also a free PSR test, and you're going to get your baseline health right now. They want to help you feel better in this new year. They want to help you lose weight also. They have multiple weight loss programs that can get you down, get you in shape again. And they want to do that with the holistic approach to health and wellness. Save 10% on any service they offer by mentioning Cube when you walk in the front door, and just ask them about what they have, or go to the website and check out and see what they can do for you. GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Minimal upfront cost for the programs they offer. Great staff, comfortable environment, not going to press you into anything that you don't need, but they do have things that can help. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com today. Schedule an appointment, see what they can do for you. Joe Cook covers the Texas Longhorns. He joins us now on the Buyers Right Hotline. Joe, first and foremost, give us the best weather update you can there in Dallas, just kind of how people are moving around, what the roads look like. What are you hearing about the game tonight?
Yeah, it's snowy out here. Not used to that up in North Texas, but still above 32 degrees right now, so it doesn't look like it's going to be awful. I do wonder how that affects maybe Ohio State flights coming in and stuff like that. But I think Cotton Bowl is carrying on as planned. Jerry Jones isn't going to open the roof, so game's going on.
Well, there you
He's
go.
He's going to open the roof?
It would be a Jerry Jones decision to do that.
That would be hilarious. That would be the ultimate, like, we are unfazed by the elements type of approach. That would be something. That would be advantage Buckeyes, by the way. I think if that actually went down. But how's kind of the psyche around the team right now? Like, is everyone in a pretty good spot?
Yeah, and it's also different. For the first time, maybe since the Georgia game, the first one, maybe the second one, Texas is kind of like the clear storyline and even betting underdog. All year, whether it was Michigan, whether it was Oklahoma, Texas A&M, all the different games, Texas walked in as the team perceived to be better, and the team that was going to be perceived to win. Now, with the way Ohio State's been playing, everybody, the way everybody's talking about this game is, can Texas upset Ohio State? And I think Steve Sarkisian's kind of leaned into that a little bit over the course of this week. It's not a bad card to play when you're at this stage. So that's where that psyche is. And then, this team's still confident too. They're here for a reason. They're back-to-back Final Fours, I guess to say, for a reason. They think they're a good team, and they think their best can handle anybody.
Joe Cook joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline, previewing tonight's Cotton Bowl, Texas and Ohio State. Are there any health concerns for Texas in this game tonight?
They feel like they're as healthy as they can be 16 games in. I know Steve Sarkisian said yesterday that Cam Williams, who plays right tackle, was a game time decision that didn't play against Arizona State. He is set to play. The other major one is Isaiah Bond. And from everything we've seen, he's as healthy as he's going to get. He's kind of had a lingering ankle issue throughout most of the year. The offense does look a little bit different with him in it. But it looks like he's going to – and he played against Arizona State. I don't think he got like a ton of snaps, but he played. So I think both those guys have been the major lingering health problems, and looks like both of them are set to play and play a good amount against Ohio State.
It looked like against Arizona State, and I guess the Clemson game to an extent, the secondary they didn't play great, especially against Clemson, and then there were a lot of plays given up against Arizona State. Are we confident that that secondary can kind of elevate their play against what is a passing attack right now that is on fire in several different spots? Yeah,
that's going to be the key to this game, I think. I think Texas knows that Ohio State right now is a little bit more past to set up the run. And they think that, okay, we're just going to probably have to play the box pretty honestly against Travion Henderson and Quentin Sean Junkin. So this is a secondary that knows that the game's going to fall on them. And you're right, they have kind of been pushed around a little bit, I guess to say, over the past couple of weeks. Cade Klubnik, put up 300-something yards on them. There were some bad coverage busts and bad one-on-one losses even too in the Peach Bowl. So this is a secondary that knows that they've got their work cut out for them. It sounds like they have a plan that they think will work. It may look a little bit like the Michigan way of doing things, where you just got to dedicate attention in the right spots and hope you hold up front to stop the run. And, I think this is a team that can do that. I think because of what Collins and Broughton and even Trey Moore and Barron Sorrell have been able to do this year, they've been able to make sure that, the running is still a difficult venture for opposing teams. And that's going to be critical, especially when you may have to dedicate, your 5 defensive backs and maybe a little bit more help from a second level guy out and defending the pass and defending guys like Smith, Igbuka, Tate, Ennis, all those guys.
Joe Cook covers the Texas Longhorns. You can find him on Twitter at JosephCook89. Find his work at Inside Texas. What has the message from Sark been to his team across this week of offensively what needs to happen, what they want to happen, what they need to be sort of against this Ohio State football team to move the ball and help Texas find a win?
Yeah, Sark's really been emphasizing balance. Really been big on, it's not good for us to be a pass first team. Maybe not to that level extreme, but that's my viewpoint on it. If you put the game on Quinn Ewers' arm, sometimes you'll get a good result like Arizona State. Sometimes you'll get a bad result like the SEC championship game. So they're really searching for balance. They're really trying to figure out how to make sure that they're wide zone running schemes get going, and that's going to be really tough against an Ohio State team that is really good at shutting that down. So that's been the emphasis, finding balance, making sure that, they're maybe not like an exact 50-50 split or anything like that, but, making sure that you get a little bit more than 50 yards in the run game or whatever it's been these against Arizona State, and get it closer to something like the 200, 250 plus that it was for Clemson. If they're able to do that, takes pressure off Quinn Ewers, takes pressure off, some of the other guys, and puts the pressure on the other side, puts pressure on guys like Caleb Downs and the Buckeye defensive backs, to where, you got to pay attention to the play action, and you don't know what might be coming on a down-to-down basis.
It's funny because I feel like I've been in Quinn Ewers' shoes before in this situation. Had a really good performance at the end of the game against Auburn in 2009. And then that confidence that I got in that game at the end carried over to the following week, where we were playing as an underdog and no one gave us a chance. And the main reason why we were an underdog is because Tebow was on one side and I was on the other. And that was like a real chip on my shoulder. And I think it allowed me to play free and aggressive. So I think there is reason to believe that Quinn might have his best performance in a Longhorn jersey tonight. I really believe that. I think that what he did at the end of the fourth quarter and in overtime to give them multiple shots to win it in regulation with the field goal, with what he did in overtime, the accuracy displayed in those two situations, I think that can be confidence that can be carried over. Do you believe that momentum that he created down the stretch last week could have a huge impact, and the fact that they're an underdog could kind of take the pressure off, so to speak, because no one's really given them much of a chance?
Yeah, it feels like, there's still those season-long expectations, but they do have the chance to thrive as an underdog. And one of the other interesting things is that I feel like Quinn Ewers has been as comfortable with the media and as honest with the media as he's been throughout his career at Texas. He started his career at Ohio State, so a lot of different Buckeye media and national media have asked about his time there, why he went there. And he was really honest about his reasons behind going. Obviously, I want to go to a program that wins games, develops, but he also talked about, I had a chance to make NIL money. And that's kind of been assumed but it's never been outright said by Quinn himself. And for him to for him to come from a place of that level of honesty, it's refreshing, and it's something we really haven't seen too much throughout his time at Texas. And so that honesty kind of makes me think he's confident, he's loose, he knows that, why mince words when he feels like he's about to go put out a performance that is going to put Texas in a position to play now Notre Dame for a national championship.
Joe Cook joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline. How does this one go tonight, Joe? How do you see it? If it is a Texas win, what are sort of your must-haves for the Longhorns if they're able to find a way to move on and face Notre Dame in the national championship game?
I think Texas, their special teams have been a wild ride all year. You have the punt return for a touchdown, but then you give up a fake punt again against Arizona State. You have the special teams miscues by missing field goals. So special teams have to show up and not lose the rope. But then, Texas just has to not get into a situation like Oregon where they were just down several scores. That's not a game script Texas is great at following through on. And honestly, I unfortunately for Texas fans in Texas see it not going that way, or not going the Longhorns' way. Like, I feel like because of the explosive nature of this Buckeye offense, that against even a Texas defense that has not allowed explosive plays, they'll be able to find what they need to find. And I kind of see Ohio State winning this one, 31-17. Texas kind of trying to make it uncomfortable, but that 2-touchdown buffer is just going to be too much for Texas to make up in terms of how games go, plays are called, and I think we'll see Ohio State and Notre Dame in the national title.
Joe, thank you for the time this morning. I know it was an early call. I know you're up late, but we appreciate you hopping on. Look forward to catching up with you again soon. Enjoy the game tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Joe Cook, Inside Texas, part of the On3 Sports Network. You can find his work there at Joseph Cook 89. You go find him on Twitter. Before we go to break, we've talked about what needs to happen for Texas, Ohio State, GMAC. We'll get to our top three next. We'll talk about that game a little bit later in the show, but tell our listeners about Shannara Flooring.
Well, Shannara Flooring does a great job, and I know it's a big commitment. It's a big expense potentially. So if you're thinking about maybe replacing old carpet or upgrading to hardwood, you can rely on Shannara Flooring because they understand the challenges that come with replacing your floors. And finding a flooring company that you can trust and feel great about is very, very difficult. Will they be there? Will they respect your home? Will they make mistakes when it comes to installing the beautiful flooring that they end up installing? Will the job get done right? All those questions are reasonable. That's why Fu and his team are here to put your concerns to the side. You're going to be completely fine. They're going to take great care of you. At Shannara Flooring, they're over there in Homewood. You can rely on Fu and his team to get you where you need to go. So when it's time for new flooring, ask yourself, call who? Call Fu. Call them direct at 205-518-6423. And you can see all the new styles for 2025 at shannaraflooring.com.
All right, we'll get to top three next right here on McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. McElroy and Kublik in the morning. The second half of the college football playoff semifinal. Auburn at South Carolina, 1 o'clock tomorrow on the SEC Network in men's basketball. Alabama at Texas A&M. That's number 5 at number 10. Both teams 13-2. 8 o'clock tomorrow night on ESPN, which I guess would be 7 o'clock because I probably wrote those down looking at Eastern time last night. You'll get Samford at UNC Greensboro tomorrow at noon. That's some college basketball for you coming up this weekend. We got NFL playoffs this weekend. We'll get to our top 3 here in just a moment. Before we do that, Greg, if we're looking to move out of our homes into a new home, who should we call?
That'll be our friends at Crocker Moving Services. They're a local company owned by an Iraq War veteran, Eric Crocker. Crocker believes in hiring movers you can trust to complete full background checks and run drug tests on every single employee. These are good guys, and you can trust them in your home. Whether you need your whole home packed up and moved, your company headquarters moved across the country, or you just want them to come rearrange your living room, these guys got you covered. They also do deliveries for furniture that you've purchased and need to get to your home. So call or visit them online today for a free quote. The website is crockermovieservices.com. That's crockermovieservices.com. Support your veterans by choosing Crocker Moving Services for your next move.
All right, we give you our top 3 at this time every day. Damian, it is, what day is it? Friday?
It
what
is
does that
indeed.
mean? Top. Let's go. Hold on a second. Wait, just
It's
1
you.
second here. Hold on. Wait a second. Hold on. I got it. 1 second. I gotta go look at the. Hold on. I'm gonna say upset of the weekend is going to be number 1. I mean, there is really only one college football game, so I kind of have to go with Texas. They're a 6-point dog. I guess I'm going to go there.
There you go.
We'll go to the NFL. We got to search somewhere. I tell you, I do like Pittsburgh plus 9.5. That feels like a pretty big
Wow.
point spread
Okay.
in the NFL, even though that is at Baltimore. It's a difficult one. I'll take the Broncos plus 8. And to round it out, I like the Rams Monday night at home as a 2.5-point dog. Those are my top 3 underdog picks of the week. Greg?
I'm going to go like preemptive top 3.
You got
Best
TGL tonight? Who's the dog in the TGL tonight?
The Bay Bears.
Got
The Mobile Bay Bears. They got a new franchise. Mobile did. Robbie Shelton is their
let's go.
captain. We're dialed in, baby.
Now, Greg, we did have a top 3 yesterday of your top 3 semifinal matchups in the college football playoff era.
Ever?
Yeah.
Right.
Would last night start to creep it up? Would it make a top 3 for you?
Top 3, yeah, it'd probably be pretty close. Number 1 would probably be the Georgia-Ohio State game. Or any order. Like Georgia-Ohio State from 2 years ago in 2022 in the Peach Bowl, that'd be up there. TCU-Michigan same year in the Fiesta Bowl a couple years back would be up there. Last night would be up there.
Georgia, Oklahoma,
and then
Rose Bowl we had up there
Oklahoma,
yesterday.
yeah, Oklahoma, Georgia, and the Rose Bowl. Those would kind of be the 4 that stand out to me as like the most, I guess, competitive, dramatic, chaotic games.
The reason people aren't going to go with last night's game is they're going to tell you that the first half was boring. Maybe the first 3 quarters were boring, but I feel like if you mentally prepared for that game the way that we did and the way we talked about it on this show, that could not have been a boring game because you knew that it was going to be a physical game, a line of scrimmage game. And it's unfortunate that there are a lot of people out there that think you have to have 950 yards of total offense for it to be an exciting football game. I welcome games like we had last night because we don't see it a whole lot. Now, fourth quarter got a little out of whack as far as playing defense, but I thought it was a tremendous game because you had one team that overcame massive adversity. You look at that game last night, I mean, Notre Dame was probably in the exact same spot Georgia was in at halftime against Notre Dame. Wouldn't you say?
Yes.
Like, we just played one of our worst halves of the season. We should be down 24. We're down 7. Like, let's get our act together, make a few adjustments, go out here, try this instead of that, and see how it goes. And a lot of it ends up working. They end up making a few plays, took advantage of some mistakes. And Georgia didn't do that. Obviously allowed the kickoff return for touchdown, and they weren't able to overcome that. So it was odd watching the first half, Greg, because I was sitting there thinking like, who's more comfortable in this style game right now? And you had to think Penn State just because of the way they were running the football.
I think Penn State was in complete control. I mean, I know that that's probably not a super popular answer, especially given how things ended. But they were in complete control in the first half of that football game. Now, the team that's in control for a half doesn't always get to the finish line in control. But if you were to tell me right now, man, Notre Dame won that game, Notre Dame would win that game when both teams get into the mid-20s and they'd score 31 points in the fourth quarter. I would have thought it was Penn State that would have scored, a majority of those points with how their offense was able to move it in the first half. It was definitely a tale of two halves and a wild game.
Unbelievable. Is that it for your top three today, Damien, or did you have something else?
Yeah, I was actually gearing towards Wild Card Weekend. Who are the top three most important players for their teams in Wild Card Weekend?
Top three most important players for their teams for their Wild Card Weekend. I'm going to say this is going to sound a little bit odd because I don't think this is a direction that we would mostly go. But I am going to go Bo Nix Broncos. I am going to go Jaden Daniels Commanders. And I know they're rookie quarterbacks, but also those are teams that weren't supposed to be anywhere near this spot right now, and they are there. Maybe Jordan Jefferson Vikings after that. My top three most important players for their teams this playoff weekend. Hard not to go to Lamar, though, for Baltimore,
Yeah,
Greg.
I mean, Lamar's got to be in there. Lamar'd be up there for sure. I would say
Stroud.
Stafford would be up there, averaging 310 a game through the air. Stroud would be in the mix. I mean, the thing about the NFL, though, I mean, how can you really justify making a pick in the playoffs of a player that doesn't play quarterback?
It's.
You know what
I mean,
it's like
I
you
actually
almost have to.
considered maybe Saquon for Philadelphia, just because he can take some balls out of the backfield through the air, and then obviously you hand him the ball a bunch. It might be a more fun question of just the non-quarterbacks that are most important to their team. I would probably say like a TJ Watt for Pittsburgh. Like if you can get to Lamar and get him down, that's the hard part. It's not just getting harder to get him down than to get to him.
Right.
He might be up there. Who else? I mean, I went Jefferson for the Vikings. Puka Nacua for the Rams. Maybe the direction that I would go.
Puka Nacua is so good. Golly, I love how that guy plays.
Interesting question for you guys. Who would you just save for Pittsburgh outside of quarterback and almost with quarterback?
TJ Watt.
George Pickens.
They got to have somebody on offense. I was going to maybe say Najee.
Najee be up there. Chase Claypool.
Probably not. Hines Ward.
Antonio Brown.
No, he's
Yancey
he's at the Crib University.
Alejandro Villanueva.
We're back with more next.
We're punch drunk right now.
Hour number 2, Friday, January 10th, GMAC Hartsfield Minute Suites. I decided to take the later flight today and could not swap that thing up, so we'll roll the dice this afternoon trying to get back into Birmingham. Anwar Richardson with us in 20 minutes. I'm sorry, it's not Anwar Richardson in 20 minutes. It's Bill Rabunowitz joining us in 20 minutes to talk the Ohio State side of this game tonight, which I think has a chance to be another great one. I think there's a little bit more of a walk-away chance with what we're going to get tonight. Would you agree, GMAC, that this one has – I didn't see any way that Notre Dame Penn State got completely out of whack. I didn't feel like that there was a path for that game to be 31-10. We feel like that's absolutely possible tonight, but if you leaned one way or the other, is this going to be more of a comfortable win for one side or something more along the lines, maybe not necessarily the score, how it went for 4 quarters, but score-wise, something along the lines of what we saw last night?
I mean, I can hear the accusations raining down now of SEC homer. I really don't. I'm seeing it through the lens of where Texas has strength. And I think Texas's defensive line is arguably the best part of their football team. And the last time Ohio State played a team whose strength was in the front defensively, it didn't go well for them. So I think this game's going to be a grind. I think Ohio State's still going to win the game. I still like the Buckeyes to win it. I just think it's going to be tight. And part of me is feeling more confident about these defensive linemen for Texas creating a lot of problems for this Ohio State group. And I don't know how you feel. I think that's where this game, that's where the game was won and lost last night in some ways, outside of a couple mistakes. But these games down the stretch now, man, this is line of scrimmage. You gotta love it. And I don't think that Ohio State has an advantage in the trenches. If anything, I might think Texas has a slight advantage in the trenches on both sides of the ball.
I don't think there's any doubt. And you just think about where Texas had been solid all year. It was the middle of that defense. Arizona State found some space in it late last week, but not many teams have. And as you stated before, the structure of this Texas defense a little bit different, designed not to give up those big plays down the field, those chunk plays. So Jeremiah Smith, maybe he sees more balls underneath. Maybe he sees more targets in the mid-range game. And can he turn those into the explosive plays? And if they don't get those, I think I'd be interested to hear this from you, because I could go back and forth on it, but I think I know which way you'll go. Which offense can be more patient in this game if that's what's required of Texas or Ohio State?
Oh, that's a great call. Like, normally I would say Ohio State, but I do think Texas has evolved this year, and Sark has evolved this year to not being as, I think he's a better head coach now than he was earlier in his tenure at Texas. Doesn't mean he wasn't a good coach then. It just means it was really about high flying. We want to create matchups. Like, I'm going to call 10 shots a game. Like, that's kind of where he was. And now he's like, I'll just run it. I know that helps my defense. Like, we'll control the line of scrimmage. I like my O-line. I think I can be balanced offensively. Now, against this group, let's be real. Do you think they're going to be balanced offensively in this one? No, I don't think they will. I think they'll try to run it. I just don't think they're going to have a ton of success. If they do, it'd be amazing. Ohio State's built to stop the run. Big Ten team, they're built to stop the run. I'm not envisioning, and tell me if you think I'm wrong, I'm not envisioning Texas running for more than 130 yards in this game. I'm thinking like 110, 120 is a pretty good night. If they're going to win it, it's going to be Quinn Ewers and the wide receiver core taking advantage of a secondary that at times has been a little suspect. So as far as being patient, I would say I think Ohio State or Texas is more capable of being patient, but I also don't know if that's the path to victory for them. I don't know if you see it that way.
No, I'd be with you. And I think when I asked the question, my immediately thought went Ohio State. And then I kind of thought, this playoff run, what they've altered just a little bit, what's a little bit different about how Chip's calling the games. And I'm just immediately telling myself, you know what? No, I think that might be Texas. I think it might be Sark being able to lean on that run game a little bit. And then, too, with the extension of the run game for Sark. I've referenced it as detachments for the majority of this year, bringing guys close to the line of scrimmage, quickly distributing the football to them. when they leave either the backfield or being at or near the line of scrimmage as a tight end or a wide receiver, like a normal H or Y or traditional tight end would be. I think that part of being a little bit more high percentage would also lead me to believe that I think if it's, if they need to go that direction and be a little bit more patient, be a little more methodical, I think Texas might be able to be that group. And I think it's because when they get going, when they get greased up a little bit, I do think that this Texas offensive line can still be really good. I don't think they've ever been dominant this year. It was funny. I had 3 different people just randomly walk around the stadium last night say, hey, why do you think Texas' offensive line isn't better? Do you think Texas' offensive line is good enough for Ohio State? And I was like, the D-line plays like they've been playing. I don't think it really matters. I mean, 95 Nebraska's offensive line might not be able to get it done. But I do think once they get going and he gives them a chance to sort of be that, they can still be pretty good. And then the misdirection and the quick throws come in on top of it, and what else you have to defend. So I think if he gives them the chance, they can find some space. It's one of the things we talked about with this game last night, Greg. It is why Notre Dame could have success in the run game. It wasn't that they were just going to blast the Penn State defensive line off the ball. The main reason I thought they could have success was because how Penn State played up front, specifically on the edge. They jump around a lot. I mean, they try to swim around blocks. They play underneath blocks. They try to, they move a lot. They had a lot of stunts. And you saw the hit and miss nature of that in the first half of that football game. There were 2 plays that Penn State had a TFL, and it was a slant underneath, and it was there. Boom, there it is right there. But then you saw one play off tackle, try to jump outside the offensive tackle, and guess what? There's about a 6-yard gap in that B gap, and Jeremiah Love gets north and south, and there it goes. It's like that sort of chess match is one that obviously can give you different things. I'd be interested to see how these 2 defensive lines play tonight, because they can both run the ball in different ways. I just know how they've run it recently. I mean, if you go back to the Penn State game, I mean, Ohio State they got in pistol and went right at Penn State. And they had success doing it later in the game. But you tell me, when was the last time you feel like Ohio State's really tried to live that way? I feel like it's been mostly perimeter runs, trying to split the defense, using different takes and motions to try to get the defense going the other way. I don't know if they can live that way. I think there's a chance, at least, that Texas can live that way because they've done it more often than Ohio State has.
Yeah, I just wonder. I don't know how you feel about it, but I just wonder if I think both defensive coordinators are probably sitting there thinking, all right, the offense that I'm trying to defend has big play potential. Early in the game, I'm going to try to anchor down and see how we match up. I think they probably look at it and think, all right, as a defense and my personnel, I feel pretty good about what I got. Now, I don't love the matchup with Jeremiah Smith, but if I just kind of stay over the top of him and make sure that we collision him and give him something to think about, and not give him pre-releases on our safeties like Oregon did. I mean, Oregon's plan was just disastrous in some ways. Like, I don't know what they were thinking, and they were they were shocked early with a couple tendency breakers, and they really had no response on that side of the ball. But I would think Pete Kwiatkowski is going to – I think he's going to kind of just anchor down, see how they hold up, and if it gets to the point where he feels like they're starting to lose that ability to anchor, then he might start being a little more aggressive with what they do defensively. On the other side, Jim Knowles, he's going to be aggressive. I don't know if you see it that way. I anticipate Jim Knowles to be aggressive in this game. I think he's going to bring pressure. I think the linebackers for them have been playing their best football the last couple weeks. I think the defensive line is starting to pick things up. I think Sawyer's done a nice job the last couple weeks as well off the edge. So I'm kind of thinking that Ohio State aggressive, Texas conservative, because of the big play nature that we've seen from Ohio State this year.
I agree with you based on Jim Knowles' DNA. It's what he is, what he does. And I was telling you what was going through my brain when you were sitting there saying that was good luck. I would almost rather Quinn Ewers sit back and think against me than give him that 1-2. Here's what's coming. If you better be able to deal with it, or the ball has to go here kind of right now. I just feel like with rhythm and timing, he's so much better now. We've seen him stare a couple of guys down here in the last few games at times. But I just feel like if it's all right, pressure here, coverage rolling there. This is my read. Go to it now. He can be much more effective as opposed to, all right, sit back, maybe show different coverages, hope my pass rush can get there, let him think about some things. Like, that's almost the Quinn Ewers that I want to face. And I damn sure don't want to deal with these Texas receivers on catch and run stuff in man-to-man coverage.
Yeah, I do think the Texas receivers can be a real problem. There's no doubt. But here's the thing. The catch and run stuff hasn't what's hurt Ohio State this year. What's hurt Ohio State are the throws over their heads. Because I think that these corners are good. I don't think they're great. I think number one, Igbinosun is a walking penalty. He's probably good for 2 pass interference and a hold tonight. And then on the other side, Denzel Burke has struggled with straight line speed. Like I think if you're Matthew Golden, you got to love the matchup you're going to get with Denzel Burke. If you are Isaiah Bond, assuming he's at 100% and can go, you got to love the matchup you're going to get with Igbinosun, because if you can stem him up with some moves and some routes, he gets grabby, real grabby, and you're probably going to draw some penalties. So I kind of like the idea of them kind of pushing it downfield a little bit more, as opposed to the dink and dunk catch and run. Now you're still going to have that, because if they're blitzing and they're aggressive, some of your screens, some of your catch and runs, that can get them out of that stuff. But at the same time, I think the path of least resistance against Ohio State is over their heads, and that's going to be where I would be thinking as a quarterback into this matchup. Get the ball out quick and get the ball out deep. Those are kind of the 2 things I'm thinking if I'm Quinn Ewers.
Yeah, I would be on board with you there, thinking that might be the way that you need to attack it, have to attack it. If you're trying to attack arthritis, your CBD store can help. They have products that can help you feel better, products that can get you moving around a little bit better, and they can do the same thing for your pet. Your CBD store has products to help with arthritis, anxiety for you or your pet. What about your skincare? Nighttime skincare, daytime skincare, sunscreen. They've got all of that in right now at your CBD store, the largest brick and mortar CBD retailer in the world. Your CBD store also has products for gut health for you and your pets. And if you're looking to lose a little bit of weight, the Trim by SunMed to help curb your appetite is in stock on the shelves now at your CBD store. First company to have USDA certified organic oil supplements. Better night's sleep, better focus throughout the course of the day. They have natural products that can help you with this. They want to help your daily routine just be better at your CBD store. Visit one of their 3 locations. Highway 280 by Bailey Brothers, 150 by the Cage in Cleaver, Trussville just off 459. Your CBD store where good health hits home. All right, going to finish up this conversation a little bit on Texas and Ohio State tonight, but want to go back a little bit to the game from last night and just kind of what it was, what we saw, how it happened, hear a little bit of the actual game when we return, and then we'll talk a little bit more Ohio State and Texas with Bill Rabunowitz a little bit later this hour. That's all next right here on McElroy and Kublik in the morning. Back live on Jocks 94.5. Also watch live on YouTube. Search Jocks 945, and you can check us out each and every morning. Greg in an airport. I'm in a hotel. Apparently, snow on the ground there in Birmingham. Snow on the ground in Dallas as well. We're going to get to Bill Rabinowitz here in just a moment and begin to talk about that Cotton Bowl tonight, what it's going to look like, what it might be. Before we do that, G-Mac, tell our listeners what they can find at Bromberg's.
Well, Bromberg's is the best. I've had a great experience every time I've gone in there. It's the only place I've shopped since we've moved back to Birmingham nearly 8 years ago. I've always appreciated the type of service and the staff that you get when you walk in the door. You feel like family. Know that these are purchases that are going to be in your family, in some cases for many generations, and know that that natural diamond that you might purchase from Bromberg's, that thing supports all different communities all throughout the world. So go and check out Bromberg's in Mountain Brook Village and at the Summit.
All right, let's go to the Buyers Right hotline now. Bill Rabinowitz joins us. He covers the Ohio State Buckeyes. Bill, most people talking about this game like it won't be competitive. Most people talking about this game like Ohio State going to just walk away from Texas. Let's flip that around just a little bit. What would be your biggest concern for the Buckeyes facing this Longhorns team tonight?
Well, I don't think it'll be. I think it could be an Ohio State blowout based on the way Ohio State's played the first two playoff games, but I'm not going into it thinking it's going to be. I mean, Texas is one of the few teams in the country that has talent, on close to a level as Ohio State's. I think Quinn Ewers, when he's on, is really good. The run game has been very inconsistent, but when it's on, again, very good. And they've got a very good defense. So, I can see a lot of scenarios in which Ohio State does win comfortably, but I can see a game in which Quinn Ewers plays very well. They do establish the run. Will Howard makes a couple mistakes, which he's done in some big games before, and it's a slugfest. I can certainly see that happening. And, the crowd gets into it. It'll be a pro-Texas crowd being in Dallas. I'm not going in this game thinking it's going to be another blowout.
I'd be shocked if it would be a blowout. I really would. I think Ohio State's been playing incredible football, but at some point there has to be a slight reversion to the mean, I would assume. This passing attack has been untouchable. Where was this all off season, and why did it take until this point of the season to just unleash Jeremiah Smith the way they have, and Will Howard with the downfield accuracy that's been unstoppable so far?
Well, if we knew the answer to that question, we'd be rich men. I think we saw glimpses of it in the regular season, but you're right. We just didn't see this kind of dominance against good teams from Ohio State this year. Penn State, they got down early. Will Howard threw a pick six and fumbled with the goal line. That was 20-13, and that was a good win. Any win at Penn State's a good win. But they didn't dominate. Obviously, they lost to Oregon, and the Michigan game was, one of those ones out of left field that I don't think anyone will ever really understand. Although I suspect, I have no proof of this, I suspect that Will Howard was more banged up than we thought from that hit in the second quarter. And by that point, the game was already starting to look like, okay, we got a real game here. And I think they just didn't feel confident in his passing. Again, that's the only explanation I could come up with for their play calling. But those are the two games, Oregon and Michigan. Indiana, they played pretty well, but even then, those games turned on two punt plays. So we got to the playoff and we think, okay, where's this Ohio State juggernaut that we expected to see? Well, they unveiled it against Tennessee and really unveiled it against Oregon.
Bill Rabinowitz joining us on the Buyers Right hotline, talking Ohio State and Texas. If the offensive plan doesn't allow for Jeremiah Smith to be able to get over the top of this defense, and it's just maybe more of the intermediate game, can Ohio State win that game, handing the football off, quarterback run, and just completing intermediate throws?
Yeah, I think they can because, a lot of it's not about actually throwing the ball deep. It's about just getting the ball to the playmaker, into the playmaker's hands and letting them do the work. The first touchdown from Ohio State was a little screen pass. So it says Jeremiah Smith. And he got some good blocking downfield and ran through a couple of Oregon tacklers, and he was off. You don't have to throw it deep. You just want to get the ball to Jeremiah Smith, to Rebecca Ibuka, to Carnell Tate, to Travion Henderson, who's running great and catching the ball out of the backfield, Quinshon Judkins. And Travion Henderson's averaging 7.3 yards a carry this year. Averaging. So, you don't have to throw it deep. But what you do have to do, and this is what they've done very well in the playoff games, is get these guys the ball in space. And they're really tough to bring down.
It's incredible to watch them, and just the way they have kind of broken tendencies too. I mean, even so much as the first play of the game last week against Oregon.
Yep.
First play of the game, like how many times have they thrown the smoke screen on the first throw of the game? Like 3 or 4?
Right.
And sure enough, they go with the smoke pump off of it to start it. I think Chip's in his bag right now for sure. The defense, I got to be honest with you, Bill. Like, I've been somewhat underwhelmed at times from this defensive line. I think they're a little bit hyped up coming into the playoff run. I mean, I think they've been good, but I'd always felt like when I watched them, I wanted more. They were capable of giving me more, and I just didn't get it all the time. But for whatever reason, in these 2 playoff games, it's been the best version of Ohio State that we've seen in quite some time. What happened to this defensive line, and why are they now finally starting to reach their potential across the board?
Well, I'll be honest. I'm not smart enough to dissect, the actual X's and O's and say, okay, they're doing this on this play, they're doing, they're slanting this way. But I'll say this: JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer are not only good pass rushers, but they're very good against the run. And Tyleik Williams and Ty Hamilton have been exceptional against the run. And if you shut the run down and make teams one-dimensional, and you jump on teams the way Ohio State has, it makes it a lot easier for the pass rush. I mean, you don't have to worry about Dillon Gabriel running that much, and actually the Tennessee offense consisted almost all of quarterback scrambles. I mean, that's all they could do. So I think if you make a team one-dimensional and you shut down the run game, it just makes it so much easier for the defensive line. And they have 12 sacks in these 2 playoff games, 4 against Tennessee and 8 against Dillon Gabriel. I mean, that's pretty stunning. And some of it has to do with coverage. The coverage has been very good. To have a guy like Caleb Downs back there, to have the corners that Ohio State does, Lathan Ransom and Jordan Hancock are really underrated because Caleb Downs gets a lot of the attention. There's really no flaw in this defense. I mean, if you were to nitpick, you'd say, okay, Davison Igbinosun gets a lot of pass interference calls because he's too handsy, and that's true. Denzel Burke had a miserable game against Oregon, but generally has been really good. So they're just, if I'm an offensive coordinator, I go, okay, where's the weakness? And I don't really think they have certainly a glaring one.
Bill Rabinowitz, Corbin versus Ohio State. He joins us now on the Buyers Right Hotline. You just mentioned that defensive line, Bill, and they have been lights out the last 2 games. They've been good, fine, even at times really good this year, but it doesn't feel like they've been anywhere near as consistently dominant as they have the last 2 games. When did this switch flip? What happened here heading into the playoffs?
Well, again, I think a lot of it has to do with jumping on teams early. When you make a team have to pass, and you don't have to worry about the run very much, it helps. And honestly, it helps that both star running backs from Tennessee and Oregon got hurt early in those games. I mean, I don't think it would have made much of a difference, truthfully, but it does help, right? If you're going against backups. So I think it's just kind of been a perfect storm in a good way for Ohio State. It also helps that the offense is getting, it's just scoring at will. So you can play freer. If you make a mistake, so what? The offense is going to score. So it takes the pressure off. Again, to your point about reversion to the mean, sure. I mean, I don't think it's realistic to think Ohio State's going to play the way they did against Oregon tonight, because few teams ever have. I mean, the closest comparison I could think of was the 2014 Big Ten Championship game when Ohio State beat Wisconsin 59-0. Yeah, that's what I thought I was watching the first half of that Oregon game. But that doesn't happen very often.
What do you make of Ryan Day? And so much, I feel like it's such low-hanging fruit, but I'd be remiss if I didn't at least get...
Sure.
I hate it. I mean, I hate that we have to ask this question, but are people kind of off his back now? Like, I mean, are people still frustrated? I understand. Don't get me wrong. Like, losing to your rival stinks, but he's pretty dang good, man. I've felt like that for a long time. He's done a great job. So have kind of the heat surrounding him, has it subsided now as a result of the performance in the first 2 games?
Yeah, I mean, I always am hesitant to kind of say I've got the pulse on the fan base because I'm not on message boards. I'm not listening to talk radio. I just do my job. But look, the Michigan game was inexcusable. It came out of left field. I don't really, other than what I said earlier, I don't have a great explanation for what happened. And yes, if they had laid an egg against Tennessee, I think it might have become untenable. But the Michigan game was the first time in Ryan Day's 6 years, I think it's 6 years, that he'd lost to an unranked team. That's amazing. Never had lost to an unranked team, 47-0 or something like that. So I always thought it was absurd that there was speculation he'd be fired. For a number of reasons. He's got a huge buyout. He's got a successful program. And also, every program now is a house of cards, right? You lose a coach, and you could lose your roster. Does Jeremiah Smith stay? Does Caleb Downs stay? Does Julian Sayin, who's the heir apparent at quarterback, does he stay? So, I mean, look what happened to Alabama this year, right? I mean, it's, you lose Nick Saban, you still got a talented roster, but it could go south. And so Ohio State's got a strong culture. I mean, here's a great old trivia, not trivia, but a little fun fact. Ohio State and Alabama under Nick Saban are the only programs in the history of college football that have gone as long as they have, in Ohio State's case, since 2011, without losing more than 2 games in a season. That's unbelievable. Under Urban Meyer, they never lost more than 2, and now under Ryan Day, they've lost 2. If they don't win the national championship, it'll be the first time since 2011. So things are good in Columbus, and fans have to kind of, understand they've gotten spoiled, and things can go south. So I've never thought that Ryan Day was really in any jeopardy. I thought the bigger question would be, would Ryan Day want to stay? And I don't think that's totally disappeared. But, if they win a national championship, I think the Michigan game will never be forgotten. But, look, the national championship is what matters to most fans. At least it should.
I don't think there's any doubt. And Ohio State's got a great chance to do it, Bill. We appreciate the time. What is your sort of view, experience, thoughts on the weather situation in Dallas right now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm from Ohio, so I'm used to this. But Dallas is not equipped to deal with it. We drove in media shuttles to the game last night yesterday without any problem for the coach's press conference. The weather's supposed to be better today. Yesterday was the day that was this kind of a scary day. It didn't seem too bad to me, but the only time I went out was in that shuttle bus, so it wasn't disastrous, put it that way.
It should be fine for everybody to get into the game tonight. No problems
there.
Yeah,
I would think so. I mean, if the weather's supposed to be, a little better, a little warmer, maybe if there's ice, hopefully it'll unfreeze by then. Yeah.
Gotcha. Bill, thank you so much. Enjoy the game tonight. We always appreciate your time. Look forward to catching up soon.
Always nice being on with you guys. Thanks.
There you go. Bill Rabinowitz of the Dispatch joining us on the Byron Hotline. Ohio State beat writer, has been that for a long time, does an excellent job. You can follow Bill on Twitter at BRDispatch. And that's a game tonight that's going to be fun, maybe for totally different reasons. We saw a Penn State football team, Greg, that had their wide receiver core with 1 reception last night. 1. In 2025, living in the future of football, 1 wide receiver caught a pass last night.
Who was it? Because I was under the impression that 0 receivers caught a pass for Penn State.
I thought they had 1 towards the end of the game.
My brain is not functioning at
Harrison caught 1 pass.
Wow. Think about that, man. Think about that. It's crazy, dude. It's just crazy.
And that was on the throwback play. So yeah, like a traditional pass, no, 0, none. Not
think about that. Well, the thing that's amazing to me is that they didn't even really try it, and I actually think the receivers are a little underrated. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the cornerback play that we get from Leonard Moore. I think naturally, anytime you throw at the receivers and you don't throw at Tyler Warren, you're always kind of like, why didn't you throw it at Tyler Warren? That's fair. I'm good with that. But to try 1 downfield, given how tight those safeties were playing to the box, I don't think it would have been a bad decision. Like, Amari Evans needed at least 2 or 3 targets, and they needed to all be downfield, and they didn't get any. So I think that's a little bit of a problem. I understand. Look, looking back at it, hindsight's 2020. Maybe you don't hit it. Maybe you can't block them. Maybe it leads to a big mistake. But I think they could have been a little more aggressive in targeting receivers downfield.
Absolutely. It's I will say this, though. But you know what? I'll say it on the other side. I have one thought about Drew Aller, and I want to know from you if you think it changed play calling for Andy Kolnicki throughout the course of that game. We'll get to that on the other side as we continue discussing last night's Orange Bowl next on Mac and Cube in the morning. $8:35, Friday, January 10th. We've had us at 9:30. He's in Dallas to preview Texas and Ohio State. Give us a little bit of a defensive player's perspective on that one and give us some thoughts there just on the ground in Dallas, as we've already heard from Joe Cook and Bill Rabunowitz covering Texas and Ohio State today. Their thoughts on that game. We'll share more of ours and give you our final picks later in this show. We were talking about Drew Aller, Greg, and then some of the different things that happened and didn't happen for him and that Penn State offense across the course of the game. You mentioned just did not really challenge Notre Dame down the field very much. Yesterday we mentioned how good he had been on, I don't know, I'm going to call them floaters, lobs, kind of the fadeaway threes, so to speak, in this college football playoff, like just putting the ball up and down on a couple of corner routes. Like he had made some really good throws, not 50, 80 yards down the field, but 25 to 40 range. I thought he had a couple of those early on that he missed and a couple that he missed badly. Do you think that changed maybe the mindset for Kolodnicki across the course of this game, thinking, all right, he's a little bit off, so I need to subtract some of those downfield shots that I thought we might take.
Maybe. I mean, he missed a couple layups, dude.
Yeah, they were there.
That throw in the one where they settled for the field goal. First scoring drive of the game. It's 3rd and 3 from the 3 thereabouts. You got Singleton in the flat wide open. I mean, you got exactly what you want. You have the mesh. You have the natural rub. You got him outflanked. If you just give him a halfway decent throw, he falls into the end zone. It's a walk-in. It's no problem. Hit him on the face mask and call it a day. Instead, he throws it low and behind Singleton. He drops it. That's a 4-point miss. That throw by itself was a 4-point miss. They settled for 3, and it's all she wrote. How much you lose by? That. They also had Singleton on a wheel route up the right sideline working against Kaiser in man coverage. And the linebackers on both sides, by the way, struggled in coverage last night. Let's just say that. You got to give some credit to the tight ends and running backs on both teams with what they can do in the passing game. But, man, those linebackers were struggling in coverage for sure. You have Singleton on the wheel route up the right sideline.
Was it Singleton that dropped the touchdown pass out of the backfield in the end zone?
Yeah, it wasn't a drop. I mean, I think it was.
It was like that was back butt cheek. I mean, I think you got to catch that
knee.
Ball. I'm sorry, you got to catch
that was
that
off
one.
the right PCL. Like, I mean, no, you're not catching that. Like, I mean, that's a tough.
It wasn't a great throw,
catch.
but I mean, golly, you got to find a way to get down and get that ball.
But if you catch it, I don't think you score. Like, you're going to be stopped at the 1 either way, more than likely. And then they missed the wheel route up the right sideline. I mean, there were 2 massive throws. I think if he hits the wheel route, it's a touchdown. No one's catching Singleton. Not when it's man coverage and safety's on the other side of the field, inside the hash. Like, he's not catching him. He's scoring. So that's literally on 2 errant and inaccurate throws. It leads to, 11 points wiped off the board? That's pretty significant in a game when points are at a premium.
There's no doubt. And there seem to be some opportunities for that Penn State offense, maybe specifically down the field, that were there and they couldn't take advantage of early, and that proved to be costly because it allowed Notre Dame to hang around in this game. That's not a team that you want to let just hang around. I asked a couple of the players on the field after the game just where this comes from. I asked a couple of guys just about the demeanor of the team, the attitude of the team, and I'm like, how much of this is like a trickle-down effect from the head coach? And I believe it was actually Steve Angeli that I talked to after the game, and he was like, all of it, every bit of it. He's like, our coach delivers a message every week. We take that message and apply it to our preparation and apply it to the team we're playing, and like that's what we ride with every single week. And hearing Marcus after the game talking about, not wanting to take credit and the story not wanting to be about him, we, you can just see why guys are drawn to him. And I was talking to Ryan Harris, who does color for Notre Dame, played at Notre Dame, won a Super Bowl with the Broncos. And he's like, the thing about Marcus is he's lost hardly any players. He said no players in the portal this last cycle. Is that real? I didn't realize that, if that is the case. I'd have to go back and look at it.
I don't know if they lost anybody. I don't think they did.
Definitely not anybody of real note, like that was, like a real tragedy. But he said, he goes out of his way to get to know the individuals. Like, he doesn't want to just be their coach. He wants to know them. He wants to help them. He wants to guide them. And he doesn't want any player to just be like a number on a depth chart. Like, he wants them to be a person on that team. And he said, he's like, that's why the freshmen are able to succeed. And he actually brought up something else interesting. I don't know if he shared this with any of you guys in your meetings, Greg, either this game or the previous 2, how early on in preparation for this season, they started pushing the 2s and 3s to get more reps. And like, you and I know how 2s and 3s can get buried in practice, specifically once the season begins and you start shaving practice time down. I mean, it starts getting to about 80-20 1s, 2s as far as reps go. And he told me last night, he said, Marcus has never done that. He's like, he wants his younger guys getting reps because he knows they're going to have to play, and he wants them to feel like they're more part of the team. And it's just part of kind of building that culture. And it just feels like all those things have worked, and all part of the reasons that's not a team that you just want to let hang around, because they're going to have a ton of confidence late.
Yeah, I would say so. And I think it's going to be really interesting just to see how this continues to progress, because while they do have some portal guys, right? Marcus has been pretty outspoken about, hey, I don't want to be a team that lives in the portal. Like, he really respects culture and development. And the fact that he's got young players playing as well as they play, I think there's going to be people, coaches from all over the country flocking to South Bend or efforting a conversation with Marcus Freeman about how he has had his freshmen ready to go. I mean, we're not talking about, like, Leonard Moore was a well-recruited prospect for sure. I mean, other freshmen that they have that are involved, Bryce Young, well-recruited prospect, but like, he's got these guys playing like veterans. And I'm not sure anyone has really unlocked their freshmen quite like Marcus Freeman has the last couple of years. So I think that's something worth monitoring, because if you look, all right, you can take a 5-star guy, a can't miss prospect, put him out there, DJ Lagway, and you're like, all right, yeah, he's going to be good, right? Like, we know DJ Lagway is going to be good. Like, he's got the pedigree, he's got the bona fides. He's highly recruited prospect, so it's not crazy surprising when he goes out there and plays at a decent level as a freshman. But when you have guys that are, 4-star guys that are recruited but not, top tier, top 5 prospect players, and they're playing like juniors that are going to be top 10 draft picks, that's pretty remarkable. And I'm not sure anyone really knows how to do it quite like what we've seen from Marcus Freeman the last couple of years.
I wonder if it's, and you and I don't follow recruiting close enough. We would have to get a recruiting expert on, like Cooper Patanga, to discuss this, with maybe Wilt Fong to kind of help us with this. This is just how I feel, and I don't know if this is 100% accurate or not, because we don't follow it that way. But there's part of me that feels like, and I know this is going back a long time ago, when I was coming out, and I feel like kind of maybe even into your era, Notre Dame recruiting was like, let's just pluck the 5-stars from everywhere. Like, let's go get the Corey Miners from Southern California's, and let's go get the Ron Paulus's, and let's just whoever the most, because we can go get anybody from anywhere. And it wasn't really about, fit, personality, makeup, those kind of things. I don't feel like their recruiting has been that in the last couple of years. Now, you can still have a top, maybe low 10, top 15 class and get great players. But maybe the lack of portal exits are partially because they're not just going and getting the 5-star guy and the guy that everybody wanted. So not everybody was all over him coming out, and not everybody had all those relationships with him and said, no matter what happens, we're going to try to get that guy if he ever leaves. And so the I'm not saying that they've only recruited 3-stars, but the semi under the radar guys, as opposed to the super high profile recruited by everybody guys, you don't have as many people coming after them. And that maybe that's something that's helped him out just a little bit, is that recruiting strategy. I don't know.
Well, and they're probably going to be a little more patient. If you're a 3-star, high 3-star, low 4-star guy, you're probably going to be a little more patient than if you're a 5-star guy, because maybe there haven't been people. Not everybody's told you how great you are. I think and you might have a little chip on your shoulder. Like, Riley Leonard plays the game with the chip on his shoulder. Why? Because he was not a highly recruited prospect at all, coming out of Fairhope, Alabama. So I think there's something to be said for that as well. They probably, if you're a 3-star guy, you probably don't have a team of people making decisions on your behalf. You probably don't have 2 agents, 3, runners, and a handful of other people that are weighing in on your decision. Like, you're just playing ball. And I think there's something to be said about that. I think it's going to impact the evaluation process for a lot of guys. I mean, with 5-stars comes baggage now, and doesn't mean it's across the board. Doesn't mean it's unanimous. Not every 5-star is a headache, but there's more dealing with guys that are highly compensated that come into college with significant expectations. So unless you find a rare unicorn personality like a DJ Lagway, who's just like the world's greatest kid and just wants to be coached and wants to play well and is a great teammate and all that stuff. But that's the anomaly, not the norm. So I think there's something to be said about that. I think there's probably some credit that needs to go to the staff for being able to identify those guys that will come in, mesh well together, and can be developed into very capable players at this level of football.
I don't think there's any doubt about it. And it's one of those things, too, where we've talked about this. Can you get away with recruiting personality in the portal era? Can you get away with, recruiting makeup? Because if you're going to do that, you need to have those conversations with people. You need to talk to folks. And sometimes in the portal, we see these guys go in and then they're going somewhere else the next day or 2 days later. And can you do that in that amount of time? It just kind of doesn't feel like it. So I don't know what exactly the strategy is, but it feels like it's a little bit different than a lot of other schools, Greg. And maybe that's just part of what is helping Notre Dame's success get to where it is now.
Well, it's different to an extent. Like, they still go after high-profile prospects, for sure. But I do think a lot of the emphasis for them on the recruiting trail is being able to, hey, I've played in the NFL. I know what it's like. You can come play for me. You're going to be developed, and I know how to get you where you need to go. I'm going to get the most out of you. So if you look at the team rankings on 247, I mean, Notre Dame came in this year at number 12. That's pretty good, right? I don't know where they were in 2024 or 2023, his first couple recruiting classes, but they weren't too far down. He was number 9 in 2024. And then in 2023, he was down there a little bit further. Yeah, around number 12 again. So, they find the right pieces and have good players and are doing a great job in evaluation and development as well.
Tell you about our friends Gusty Gulas and the Gusty Gulas Group. If you're looking to get into a new home, you need to call the Gusty Gulas Group today. Gusty Gulas Group has helped family members of mine get into a new home, get their home sold. More showings than we ever thought were going to be possible. Got a better deal on a new home for my mom than we ever thought possible. Call 205-542-1996. Go to GustyGulasGroup.com today. They're brokered by eXp Realty. Serve more than 3,000 home buyers and sellers in the greater Birmingham area. You can trust Gusty's aggressive and proven selling system. He's got what it takes to attract hundreds of qualified buyers that want your home because he's got that network built. Over 830 five-star Google reviews for Gusty Gulas and the Gusty Gulas Group. He's been marketing your home, other homes, because he knows the network. He knows what homes are coming available. He knows where the buyers are. Let the Gusty Gulas Group work for you. 205-542-1996 or visit GustyGulasGroup.com and start packing. When we return, we talked a lot about the quarterbacks in action last night. We talked a lot about the quarterbacks that are going to be in action tonight. There was massive quarterback news yesterday that did not involve a team remaining in the college football playoff. We'll tell you who it is and what most likely is going to take place with it next on Mac and Cube in the morning. Back in McElroy and Kublik in the morning, 9:52 a.m. where I am, where Greg is, Miami and Atlanta. 8:52 where you are. Roman Harper coming up next hour. We'll take a further dive into Ohio State, Texas. More college football playoff coming tonight. But massive news dropping yesterday. I don't know what, about an hour before the game, Greg. This thing got going around. And it was all everybody in the press box and moving around the stadium wanted to talk about. And it was that former Georgia quarterback, I say former, maybe not, Carson Beck has hit the transfer portal. He had already announced that he was going to enter the NFL draft. Now his name goes into the portal. Pete Nakos reporting that Texas Tech, Miami, Ohio State, teams that are on that short list. And when I first heard the news, I immediately thought of you saying leverage is king. Cheddar is better on a daily basis. This is a leverage move. If you can find a way to pull an absurd amount of money out of a school, you go play for them for one more year, and then you take your chances to the NFL. If not, and you don't get the offers that you like, you're set to go to the NFL anyway. You continue on down that path, and you go make that move. What were your initial thoughts of seeing Carson Beck in the transfer portal?
Not surprised. Really at all. I mean, I was kind of, if there was one thing that surprised me was how many people were shocked by it. Like, the guy's got a right elbow injury, doesn't want to go through the draft process with a right elbow injury. Who can blame him? And then also, he didn't have a great year. And it's one thing, it's like, all right, can this guy improve his draft stock by coming back? That's always the question, because if you look at it, if you get picked number 3 versus pick number 27, you're looking at $20 million in difference between the 3rd overall pick and the 27th overall pick. Both first-round picks, but 24 picks between them. The amount of money that could cost you by sliding is significant. So Carson Beck has legitimate number 1 overall potential. It's just he didn't have a very good year. So maybe coming back, he can kind of reestablish himself as a top guy. And it's not like next year's quarterback class is like clear cut. Hey, this guy's 1, this guy's 2, this guy's 3. A lot of people are going to love Arch Manning. I think Sam Leavitt at Arizona State is going to garner some attention. I think there's a handful of others, but I mean, it's very much up in the air. And Carson Beck could easily, with a great year, reestablish himself as a top overall pick, which could mean $40 million in guaranteed salary in the first 4 years of his contract.
It's wild. When you saw those teams that were immediately sort of tied to that, what were your thoughts? Texas Tech, Miami, Ohio State?
Ohio State makes a ton of sense, right? We understand that. They've obviously succeeded with the 1-year Will Howard experiment this year. Miami, similar situation. 1-year Cam Ward experiment was a success. So those two made tons of sense. Texas Tech, not so much. The other one that I think would be a perfect spot for Carson Beck would be Louisville. They've had success with Tyler Shuck, and they're similar players. But obviously, I think Louisville already got their guy in Miller Moss a couple weeks back. So it'll be interesting to see where he ends up. But I still think Carson Beck can play at a high level. It's just a matter of what style of offense does he want to run.
Other Georgia news, running back Cash Jones announced that he will be back in Athens next year. And you have to also ask the question, is a return to Georgia completely ruled out? I think probably, but I guess you can never say never in today's college football. Back with more Mac and Cube after this. Hour number 3 underway. McElroy and Kublik in the morning. Roman Harper of the SEC Network will join us in 30 minutes. Talk Ohio State, Texas. We finished the conversation on Carson Beck entering the transfer portal. A little bit of other transfer portal news. Indiana gets a commitment from Tennessee tight end Holden Stace. He had transferred into Tennessee. And Ole Miss gets a commitment from West Virginia wide receiver Trayvon Ray. So Ole Miss trying to restock on that wide receiver position, GMAC, where they were hit pretty hard due to graduation. But obviously, it's not going to be a difficult attraction. A lot of folks going to want to go play there inside that offense.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's makes a lot of sense, and they've done a great job with the portal in the past, and they've featured a lot of receivers, and they've losing a lot of receivers. So a lot of targets to be accounted for. It's just why they've went out and got Luke Haas and a handful of others to kind of fortify that room.
Traylon Ray, 28 catches, 426 yards, 4 touchdown receptions for West Virginia last year. Back to this Carson Beck news. You think just kind of how it happened, what happened, the way he gets injured, the way that team reacted to Gunnar Stockton becoming the starting quarterback. I think there's a little bit of all of this that factored into this decision, even though I still think it's a large leverage play, Greg. If you're advising Carson Beck, what's your advice to him? If he hires you to be his consultant here and say, all right, we can get X amount to come back and play college football. I'm seeing $3 million to $5 million thrown around by some people. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't believe it. I think this might be the last year you can get away with that. So maybe you look at it as going all in for one more year and here we go. But if you're talking about some sort of salary cap situation, which essentially with revenue sharing, what it looks like you're going to be, are you doing your team a disservice by paying somebody that much with what's going to be split? I mean, I've had SEC coaches tell me that paying an edge rusher $1 million and a half would be doing your roster a disservice. So what would your advice be to Carson Beck, if it's anything close to that number-wise, on what he should do and what might be best for his future?
All right, so if I were in a position to give him advice, I would tell him, number one, stop with social media. Number two, if I see you driving any sports car that is flashy, we're going to have some problems. Like, I need to get back to the substance that made you one of the top players in the country coming back this past season. Like, driving Lamborghinis or whatnot, it's cool, but like, come on, man. Like, don't you want your teammates to love you and to do whatever it takes to make sure that you are upright, healthy, safe, what have you? Like, I don't want this, aura of a max contract, $270 million starting quarterback in the NFL. Like, all right, you go make Joe Burrow money on your second contract. You want to drive a Lamborghini? By all means, go ahead and do it. But like, we don't need to play that game right now. Not in college football, because I think you have a bunch of players that are alongside you that really would like the opportunity to maybe drive a car similar, and you don't want to create animosity in the living room. So I do think it's going to be important for him to kind of look in the mirror, analyze what's important. So regardless of where he goes, whatever paycheck it's for, the things that he kind of got into this past off season, I'm not sure they're going to do him a lot of favors if he were to go to a new place.
800-239-9569 if you want to get into the show. 800-239-WJOX. That'll get you in on the Buyers Right Hotline. Tweet in at Mac and Cube. You can go check out a lot of snow pictures. People are tweeting in from different parts of the state, different parts of the country, actually. We got some in from Missouri and some other folks that are sharing their pictures of snow as well. You can be a part of the show there. We will get to some calls here in just a moment. Your feedback on last night's game, tonight's game, college football in general, the transfer portal, all on the docket for the rest of the show. Before we do that, Greg, tell our listeners again about Bromberg's.
Love Bromberg's. Really awesome. Just how much they're able to take care of you. It's the only place I would shop, and I cannot recommend the experience that I've had enough from Bromberg's. They've done a great job, just an amazing job taking care of me and my family. You can go in, have your loved ones go put together a wish list. The thing you can just go in and say, all right, here's a special event coming up. I'll buy some. And then you just have a list of things to kind of keep in mind. But it's really about the people. I mean, when you're making a purchase that's this significant, that might be in your family for multiple generations, you want to make sure you're buying it for people that you can trust, people that'll give you good sound advice, and people that are going to make sure that they get you the best bang for your buck when you're making a purchase this significant. So go and buy that natural diamond at Bromberg's in one of their 2 incredible locations in Mountain Brook Village and at the Summit.
All right, let's go to the phones. Cowboy is in Dallas, wants to chime in. Cowboy, welcome into the show.
Hey, how you doing? Hey, I knew Greg out here at Equinox and everything. Greg, I heard you last year on the radio. I was listening. You talked about interviewing coaches for Alabama, and you said, Chris Klingman's a ball coaching dude, and I would have talked. I'd talk maybe with Marcus Freeman. And that set in my mind, and I hadn't forgot it, and I've always respected your opinion. And you saw something in Marcus Freeman maybe that the average person didn't see. And I know you played for Coach Saban. And I saw Marcus coach defense at Cincinnati against Georgia in that 2021 Peach Bowl. And I said, man, that's the guy Coach Saban ought to go get. He coaches a lot like him defensively. And Brian Kelly got him his last year at Notre Dame. Next thing you know, Swarback saw that he was a good coach and made him head coach. And I really like that guy. His team plays with poise, and, man, they just kept hanging in there last night like a Saban team would do. Just kind of expand on that, and good talking to you. And tell old Frank Bromberg we said hello.
Sounds good. We'll tell Frank you say hello. The whole Bromberg family, awesome folks, that's for sure. Frank, Ricky, even Clayton, who we love. Here's what's amazing about Marcus Freeman is here's what I like about Marcus Freeman. He reminded me of a young Kirby. Like when Kirby was coming up, and they just have similar approach. Like the guys play their tail off for him. They're demonstrative and excitable, but the guys just play so insanely hard for him. At Cincinnati, they did it. He had a certain level of relatability. I mean, obviously Kirby didn't play in the NFL, but he played the position that he was coaching in college at a dang high level, playing safety at Georgia, and I think the guys can relate to that. And I think there's something to be said about a guy that, I'm not saying that, if you have to make a hire, he's got to be in his 30s, because I think there's 60-year-old coaches that can relate to the players. I don't think that's the end of the world, but I just think he does a great job getting the most out of his guys. And I think when his guys walk on the field, they think they can do anything. And I think that's the most important part of coaching, man. Like getting the guys to believe. And if you believe that you can do something, you might not be able to. Like, you might not actually have the physical capabilities of running a big post over the top if you're 40s 4'9". But if you think you can, you just might. You know what I'm saying, Cole? And I think coaches, back in the day, it was all about you can't do this and you can't do that. Like coaches coached kind of through a negative lens to put a chip on guys' shoulders. That's not what the modern player needs. The modern player needs to be lifted up and built up and told that they can walk on water, because they just might believe it if you tell them that enough. And I thought Marcus always did a really good job of that. So I'm not surprised to see him having this much success.
Let's echo that from Chris Lowe last night. Tweets out 10 hours ago. Give my pal Greg McElroy props on 2 fronts. First, he's terrific in the booth as always. On top of things, he and Sean McDonough have great chemistry. Second, Greg told me even after Marcus Freeman lost his first 3 games as Notre Dame's head coach, he would be a star well on his way. So you saw it with Marcus Freeman. Certain people doubted it. A lot of people are catching on now. My first personal interaction with him was last week, and I have made no bones about what I feel with Marcus Freeman and what he's going to be about. But a lot of folks there a little bit uncertain early on in his tenure at Notre Dame. Golden Domer would like to chime in on the Buyers Right hotline. Domer, welcome into the show.
Top of the morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Hey, look, guys, I just want to say this, man. I've been a Notre Dame fan my entire life in the South. It hasn't been easy. But, I've said it last week, and there's a lot of things I could say, but the biggest thing I just want to say is I'm just so proud of this university from the top down. I mean, the players deserve this. I mean, these are just great guys, man. I think what's best about this, people used to think, Greg, you touched on it. kind of thought they knew Notre Dame. They thought they knew them. They just, there was the stereotypes out there. The best thing about this run, guys, is Notre Dame is just, these are just great kids, man. These are great kids. I mean, Riley Leonard from Alabama, he's a great young man. He's got a story. Marcus Freeman is a great man. He's a great leader. Jack Kaiser. These guys are just great human beings. And we've just lost a little bit of this in college football. And I just think that this team represents more than just Notre Dame. It represents more than just this 25 team. It just have brought back a little bit of what it's supposed to be about. And all I'm saying is, guys, is these kids are great students. They're great human beings. They love the university. Marcus loves the university. That game last night was epic. I couldn't even sit down. I was lightheaded. I felt like I was going to fall out at any minute. I'm in here with my family watching the game. It was up and down. And the thing is, guys, you just don't see a team that loses their starting left tackle, their guard. They bring in a guard who hasn't played all year, and he plays outstanding. Riley Leonard goes out, and Jelly comes in. Guys, I don't know if we're going to win the national championship, but what Notre Dame has done, coming back from losing to Northern Illinois, they played the rest of their season was a playoff game. Any more losses, and they're done. And for them to do this, dig deep, Jeremiah Love, guys, that run that he made against a elite front seven, he put that team on his back. He has a very badly sprained knee. It was insane. It was so inspiring. I just love this team. And everybody talks about national championship or bust. This year is bigger than national championship. This year is bigger than national championship. What this team has showed is heart and passion and love for the university. And that's what we got to start getting back to. And this is what I love about college sports. And I just want to say, guys, Greg, I don't know if you realize this, but Notre Dame's got a long, long line of history. Your voice, my friend, is going to be over some of the greatest moments in Notre Dame history. Your calls, sometimes we don't think about it. We live in the moment. But you mean a lot to Notre Dame now. A lot of people I've talked to, those calls you've made in some of the biggest moments in Notre Dame history, Notre Dame Nation has been starving for moments like this. And you are part of Notre Dame history now. You are absolutely part of it.
Well, it's a small
Greg.
part, that's for sure. It's really cool to have been there. And I think that's been really fun from our perspective as broadcasters to kind of latch on to a team throughout this playoff run. How cool is that? You get to see them grow and evolve and develop from one week to the next. So I don't think, look, from a broadcasting standpoint, I don't know I was going to have Notre Dame 3 games in a row, but the way it's worked out has been really neat, and just their story is incredible. And I think Sean said it really well last night that this is by far, and no matter how you feel about Notre Dame is beside the point. Throw biases out the window. It doesn't matter at this point. It's hard not to appreciate what this team has done. Whether you like Notre Dame, hate Notre Dame, or disgusted by Notre Dame, feel like Notre Dame it doesn't have to play by everyone else's rules. Regardless of how you feel, how can you not have an appreciation for the adversity this team has had to endure, the injuries they've had to overcome, the timely plays that they make, not just on offense and defense, but on special teams as well. It's really cool, man. I'm not sure the college football playoff in its first year, the 12-team playoff, could have asked for a better story with Notre Dame making the run the way they've made the run the last few weeks.
There's no doubt. It's been pretty cool to watch. Just I'm excited to learn that now you're a Notre Dame guy. And here we go. Greg
Big
McElroy.
It's a
Greg McElroy, Notre Dame historian.
I am a quarter Irish.
Well, now you're
Quarter
the voice
Irish,
of the
Scottish. Yeah.
So we knew it was happening
Yep. It's
all
true.
along.
It's
There we
accurate.
go. All right. We'll get to a break. Before we do that, you have to wait on it. Tell our listeners about Family Care Dental. You never have to wait for your dental care there.
That's because Family Care Dental is taken care of. They're the urgent care office where you can be seen the same day. We know how hard it is sometimes, especially here at the beginning of the year, trying to get things done. It's hard to make appointments. It's hard to schedule around kids, especially when you got activities abound and all kinds of stuff. That's why Family Care Dental is there for you on Fridays and Saturdays. That's why they can get you in the same day for routine cleaning that now includes free teeth whitening. They're accepting patients of all ages, and most insurance plans are accepted. They're in Hoover, Homewood, Alabaster, and Fultondale, but they're now open in Trustful as well. Go see them today by calling 874-9605. That's Family Credential, 874-9605.
All right, when we come back, we'll talk more about tonight's college football matchup right after this on Mac and Cube in the morning. Notre Dame advances. They will face the winner tonight. Already, Greg, point underdog against Ohio State, a 2.5-point underdog out quickly. How would you view Notre Dame's matchup with those two teams for the Natty?
I think it's tough. I just wonder if they're going to run out of gas. Like I thought maybe in the first half, last night was the night that they were going to run out of gas. I don't know if you feel the same way, but at what point does the good fortune that you've experienced stop? Like a team making a critical error in an end of half situation, whether it's Georgia at the end of the first half or Penn State at the end of the second half, an interception and a fumble, both lead to easy points, relatively speaking, for the Irish offense. At what point does that start to go away? I think they're great. I would never count them out. They could be down by 40 and I'd still think they had a chance, but I just wonder if there's enough gas left in the tank. But if they can get through this one last night on a short week with 7 days in between one game and the next, and that was a physical game that they played against Georgia, and they still lived to tell the tale, I think there's something to be said about the way this team is made and the way this team is built.
Let's go back to this box score, just kind of some of the numbers from this game last night. 27-24, Notre Dame gets the win. Penn State led 10-3 at the half. Penn State 3 of 11 on third down, Greg. Notre Dame 11 of 17. So much of this game was even, but a couple of the things that were not were absolutely huge. That would be one of them. 383 to 339. Notre Dame had a small lead in total yardage. They had more passing yards, 267 to 135. Penn State outrushes Notre Dame 204 to 116. Both had 42 rush attempts, 4 and 5 penalties in the game, 2 turnovers versus 1 turnover. Notre Dame had more than Penn State did. It's just the Notre Dame turnover was much more timely there late in the game. I mean, there are a lot of areas that this thing was really close. Penn State actually held a small advantage by, I think, 5 seconds, 9 seconds, 8 seconds, something like that in time of possession. But that 11 of 17 number on third down, it's what we've talked about with Riley Leonard, just being able to move in the pocket, get a ball out. He threw a couple of really nice balls down the field last night. That sluggo to Aeneas Williams out wide, I mean, a little pump fake and go, like that was really nice. So Riley Leonard, who probably doesn't get enough credit for being able to push the ball down the field a little bit, did make some beautiful throws, although had the two interceptions, but he moved a couple nice balls down the field, and obviously they kept moving the chains.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like his downfield passing has gotten better and better and better, and that's something they haven't really tried these last couple weeks. I mean, they attempted one throw downfield against Indiana, and it was at the end of the game. The game was at that point almost out of hand. So, and they really didn't try hardly any downfield against Georgia, just given the way that thing was going and the pass rush that Georgia has. They didn't really try. They didn't really want to. They didn't feel like they really needed to. So, they were slightly more aggressive in this game. I wouldn't say that they were taking shot after shot after shot, but they were definitely willing to push it downfield a little bit more, and it was met with really nice results. Not only were they completed, but they were really accurate and really well thrown. So I think there's a lot to be said about that. The one play to Greathouse, though, was pretty fortuitous. I mean, a guy fell down. I mean, the likelihood of that is pretty slim, but also pretty impressive that he was able to find it, and Greathouse was able to do what he did after the catch. So, yeah, the downfield passing attack, I think, is going to have to be how they attack whoever it is they play next. And that will definitely give them a chance to potentially eliminate what talent gap might exist.
I mean, technically had 2 DBs fall down on one play and able to take that thing for a massive gain for Notre Dame. That was just a huge play. All right, we'll get to a break. When we come back on the other side, Roman Harper going to be with us. Give us his thoughts. He's in Dallas covering Texas and Ohio State. From a secondary perspective, what does Texas do to be able to slow down Will Howard, Jeremiah Smith, and this lethal Ohio State passing attack? We'll discuss that with him and continue our breakdown of tonight's game. We're giving you our picks in the final segment of the show today. Be back with more Mac and Cube right after this. All right, 927. Jocks 94.5. Listen online, jocksfm.com. App is in your app store, iPhone, Android. You can download that for free. You can also watch live on YouTube. Search Jocks 945.
Bill Smith Buick GMC is the GMC Dealer of the Year. Just 10 days away from crowning a national champion on the football field. The good news is we've already crowned a national champion in GMC dealerships. Bill Smith Buick GMC. They've won it 7 times, including 4 in a row. And I think you can probably feel pretty good about them bringing home another natty for this past season. 2025 GMC Sierra 1500 SLT 4x4 with the X31 off-road package. That's right, you heard that correct. 2025, a brand new model year. $65,795 is the list price. They'll take $11,000 off the list price. You'll get at the door for under $55,000. Deals like that keep people coming back. That's why 75% of their business is repeat customers, because you have a better experience when you shop with Bill Smith. So take the short drive to Coleman. You'll be glad you did. You can also shop online. Have delivered right to your driveway at BillSmithBuickGMC.com.
Let's go to Roman Harper of the SEC Network in Dallas for this matchup tonight. Ohio State, Texas. Roman, the question everybody wants an answer to, what does this Texas secondary do to just sort of neutralize, not even take out, but just stop from being overwhelmed by this Ohio State wide receiver core?
Understand what, number one, know where Jeremiah Smith is. Like, it's like understanding where Weapon X is, where the number one guy is. You just don't go out there and allow him to line up in places that he's not normally or typically at, and then just play him like he's a normal person like Oregon did. You can't treat him like he's normal. You got to treat him like he's very abnormal. And then what they do and build off of that where he lines up at. So that you got to understand that. Let's talk. Let's communicate. Let's be exactly the same Texas secondary that they've been all year long, which is a secondary that doesn't give up a lot of explosive plays. They keep things in front of them. They tackle the football. They cause turnovers, and they create havoc, and they tackle in space. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great matchup between Texas secondary and the wide receivers and skill players of Ohio State. Who wins that battle? I think it will affect the game, but ultimately I think the game will be determined on Ohio State's defense versus Texas's offense.
Before we get to that matchup, I am curious though, Roman, looking at what you've seen from Texas's secondary. I know Jahdae Barron and he's got his Thorpe and all this. Like, I think he's a good player. I'm not taking anything away from him. But I don't want him in a matchup against Jeremiah Smith. Like, how do you neutralize Jeremiah Smith's presence in this game?
Well, look, I think you understand what he's going to try and run when he's that close to the end man on the line of scrimmage. First of all, Greg, great job last night. I thought you did an excellent job. I listened to you. I watched the game. Good job by you two guys calling that game last night. Hats off to you. Now your Chevy commercial, I think, could be done a little bit more enthusiastically.
It's a GMC,
that I had to listen to.
Roman.
Yeah,
it's
GMC.
It's a GMC, so you need to
that's
get it
exactly
together.
what I'm saying.
You can also buy Buicks.
Exactly
if you'd like to buy a
about.
Buick, you can buy one of those as well.
Thank you, Greg. I appreciate that. I just continue to just hear this in my head. But anyways, I would say, you got to understand when he's close to the end man of line of scrimmage, he's not in there to block. All right, if he's off the ball, they're trying to get him the ball going back the other way. And then when he's out there or they widen somebody else or they put somebody outside of him, they're going to try and attack you with verticals, corner routes. He is the main primary target. So just understanding when and where they're trying to get this guy the football, I think that matters. And then on top of that, you have to be able to affect the quarterback. I think Ohio State's done a better job the last couple of weeks of kind of moving the pocket, a little short waggle motion, action in the pocket to try and move Will Howard, but knowing that, hey, I'm just moving him a little bit to keep him in the pocket, to reset the pocket, and we want to take our shots downfield. So you got to be able to get pressure on this guy. Don't allow it to be easy, which this will be the best front that Ohio State's faced, the most athletic front for sure in this playoff run that they've been so hot on. So we'll see. How does Texas match up versus their O-line? I think those are the little things that I say. Greg is going to take a complete team effort. That means the offense is converting on third downs, keeping that offense of Ohio State off the field. And then also not just the secondary piece, but also the linebackers and the defensive line, that they have to affect the quarterback. And it's got to be a complete team effort to slow down Ohio State's offense.
Roman Harper of the SEC Network joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline. What is your current situation? Are you like just getting in from last night? Like what is happening? Are you in the lobby?
Yeah, I'm in the lobby, bro, of this hotel, this Texas Live hotel. So I just got here. It's snow on the ground, which I haven't seen like snow on the ground in Dallas before. I've seen sleet, I've seen ice, I've seen a lot of other things, but I haven't actually seen snow on the ground, and it's here. It's stuck. It's out here. I'm looking at the AT&T Stadium right across the road right here, and so it's good, man. It's not too cold though. It's it's cold, but it's not like frigid because the wind's not blowing.
What is your level of confidence in Texas just moving the football, specifically with what this Ohio State front four has been the last two games in this playoff?
Not very high. It's also because Texas hasn't ran the ball consistently. When they've had to play great competition. They ran it versus Clemson, but they were a better team than Clemson. I thought they were better than Arizona State too, but Arizona State out-toughed them at times. And then Texas got up, and then it seems like Texas does this every game where they get up and they don't finish teams off. They start to, I call it playing with their food and not just finishing their food and getting up off the dinner table. But, they let teams hang around and they get more confident. I don't think you have to worry about that with this game. I want to see this Ohio State versus Texas game, because I think Texas will be pushed in a different manner. I think Texas will either get pushed out of the way because they're not good enough to keep up with Ohio State, or they're going to feel a sense of urgency all four quarters, all 60 minutes, where they push themselves and we see something extraordinary. Because the reason why everybody's going to all pick Ohio State and not pick Texas, number one, is because Ohio State has earned that right. That, we understand the roster requirement that they went about this offseason to get all these guys, to get all this talent. But then the last couple of weeks, they looked like the team that we expected them to be all year long. And then versus Texas on the other side, Texas has this sense of like underwhelmingness. They're the Final Four team that I'm probably most underwhelmed with, because at times they look so good. And then at other times you're just like, man, why are they not playing like that all the time? So you get that sense of that, and you don't have that with Ohio State so far. So that's why everybody's going to be all on Ohio State. And I don't blame them. You'd be a dummy not to pick Ohio State at this point.
I get it. I really do. What do you make of Ohio State's secondary? I look at Davidson Igbinosun. I think he's very grabby. He seemingly always he's good for at least one, maybe two penalties a game. I mean, even against, I believe it was Indiana, I think he had 3 defensive pass interference penalties in one game. So he's not afraid to grab some jerseys and tug every once in a while. How do you anticipate them attacking him and Denzel Burke, the other guy who's given up some big plays downfield?
Well, look, I think all these college players are all grabby. We like to call it physical, whatever it is. They all grab and hold. That's why they all get so many penalties when they get in the league. And they realize you got to be able to just run with guys. You can't be grabbing and going for seconds on them. So I think they got to run the football first, Greg. They got to be able to run the football a little bit. And then after that, I just think Quinn Ewers is going to have a day. Like, Quinn gets in these moments where, like, man, he spits the ball out really good. He gets the ball out fast and gets the guys to be able to catch and run opportunities. Like, those are some of the things he does extremely well. But he's got to stay away from the big mistake. That's what he cannot do. I think he has to stay away from mistakes here. And that's easier said than done when we're talking about college non-professional guys, Greg. But that's what you got to be able to do if you want to try and let your team have the best chance to win. And I think you're going to have to take your chances here. And I trust Sark is going to find ways to dial up a double move, to figure out to get his best players, some of his speed players, Wingo and some of those guys, on one-on-one situations and allow them to try and say, hey, we're going to take advantage of it. That's what I anticipate. But I think it's going to have to start with a run, at least attempting to run the football, because right now Ohio State's defense, they're big, they're very athletic, and I think the weakness is probably their corners and attacking them through the air, because nobody's really running the football effectively up there versus their front. And what they do defensively is just different than what anybody else is doing in the country. I tell everybody, I call it a soccer formation. They run that 4-2-1-4, where the one in the middle is actually Caleb Downs, where they use him more of a hybrid sometimes he can be that cover 2. If you're playing cover 2, that middle of the field safety, right? But then he's also effective in low zones, playing more versus pass. He's also effective as an over the top, putting a cap on the defense in the run game. So they're using him very effectively. and nobody else is running this style of defense because nobody else has the Caleb Downs.
Roman, great stuff, man. I appreciate it. What's the weather situation outside? Snow on the ground. Have you had trouble moving around? Is it easy to get to where you want to go?
The roads are actually pretty good. I'm pretty excited. I got me some Bojangles when I got in. I'm about to go up here to my hotel room. I'm gonna go get me a workout in here, and then I got to get to go do some work later. But I'm happy that I didn't get to fly in yesterday because I got to sit home and watch my daughter play some basketball. She hit a couple 3-pointers last night. She still got room to get better, but hey, we're 7th grade, just trying to get to 8th grade with a good attitude.
That's it. That's all it is. I'm glad we got that breakdown, though. Appreciate you taking some time to join us. As always, look forward to catching up with you soon.
Thanks, Cole. Cole, keep your kids out that little contraption that you got them in that backyard. You like housing them in there.
That's
man.
called a Gaga ball pit. You need to learn about the new age sports that are going around. All right?
That is the new age thing. Yeah. Okay. My kids have told me about this Gaga. Yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Santa brought him the inflatable Gaga ball pit. So
okay.
Yeah, it's a big deal in our house right now.
Okay.
Wow.
All right. Well, keep living it up, brother. I'll talk to you boys later.
You got it. Thanks, Roman. All right, there you go. Roman Harper of ESPN, the SEC Network, joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline. It's going to be chilly out there, Greg. People need to know about Polar Bear Services.
Yeah, they can get to you for sure, but it would have been great if you'd have gotten out in front of it, but this cold weather isn't going away. If you're having problems with your heat or air, you need to call Weston and the guys, and they'll take great care of you. They'll be out. They'll get things fixed. They'll get things repaired. They can do a new installation. They're the best in the business. These guys are terrific. They are a train dealer, and we know it's hard to stop a train. So if you're having problems today, if your heat is not working, we know that's a huge, huge problem in Birmingham and all throughout the South right now. So go and check out my friends at Polar Bear Services. And remember, if you have a problem with your electrical, plumbing, heat, or air, pick up the phone and call the Bear. It's 205-497-BEAR. It's 497-BEAR.
All right, when we come back, we will give our final picks for tonight's game, Super Sofa Game of the Week, and more next on Jocks 94.5. segment of Friday, as Notre Dame will be playing for a national championship. They get to 14-1 on the season. Penn State finishes their season. I don't know, Greg, probably unfortunate the way people are going to view. Had his team in it, had his team prepared. He falls to 1 at Penn State. The only coach with the worst record poll era was Frank Beamer, who was 1-21. Continue to have that stigma of not being able to win the big games, but it's a hell of a season his group put together. This may have been his best chance to win a national title, but it's going to be hard for people to look at this as a real positive.
Especially when you know scoring more points in the second half than the first half.
No, that's locally he's a great coach.
That's all that. He really didn't make. His quarterback did. I mean, you wouldn't expect a guy that started a lot of games in his career, has only thrown 9 career interceptions. You wouldn't expect him to throw it late over the middle in a critical situation with 40 seconds left in the game. You just wouldn't expect that. Like, what are the odds of that? Seriously, I mean, what are the odds? He has the lowest interception percentage in the history of Penn State football, and he throws the worst interception of his career on what might be, one of the last throws of his career. So the likelihood is extremely slim. But the thing about Penn State and the thing about James Franklin is it's a bit low-hanging fruit, and I don't think it's unfair, but the record, everyone flashes up there. He's 1-18 against top 5 teams in the AP poll. Well, how often has his team been better than the team he was playing against? How often has he been favored in those games against teams in the top 5? The answer is like 2 or 3 times ever. He was an underdog last night, but I don't think any of us look at that roster that the better roster last night. And they had the better team, I think, in some cases, but they just missed too many opportunities and they could not capitalize on some of the mistakes that Notre Dame made. So I think there's a lot to be said about that, but really not really one that will sting because he had it on his racket and he wasn't playing against a team with one arm tied behind his back. He actually had a roster that was superior and it didn't matter. And that, I think, is probably what will pain him the most.
I don't think there's any doubt. Take us through Drew Allar's final interception. What did you see on that play from a quarterback's eyes? What happened there?
Well, he was trying to work a little circus concept to the left-hand side. You had a guy in the flat to the left. You had a guy breaking on a corner to the left. Both were well covered. The number 3 in the progression is where he went with it, but it was well covered. It was a long way. He had a guy in his face. I mean, he went to the right place as far as the progression would tell you to go, but you can't make the throw. The coverage is too tight. The ball's in the air for too long. You also have pressure that is right there, shortening the amount of decision-making time that you have to evaluate where to throw the ball. It's a throw that you just can't make. I mean, the cardinal rule for quarterbacks is you can't be late over the middle. Simple as that. Like, you cannot be late over the middle, and he was. And there's really 2 rules for quarterbacks that I've had beaten in my head a million different times. You can't take a sack on 4th down, and you cannot throw late over the middle. Those are the 2 things you just can't do under any circumstances. And there's others. There's other nevers that you need to fit in as well. Never throw it out of bounds on a Hail Mary. Like, there's a handful of others. But that one is the one that was beat into my brain starting in about 7th grade. Never throw late over the middle. He did so, and it was disastrous. I mean, it's an inexcusable mistake, and it's an inexcusable interception, and you feel terrible for the young man, but it's just not a throw that you can make at that point of the game. You just can't do it.
All right, let's get to, John, our TD's Super Sofa game of the week.
Absolutely. And TD's New Year clearance event is happening when? That'd be right now. Save up to 50% on name brand furniture for the entire house, bedroom, living room, dining room, even discounts in the Flex Deal store. Plus, pay no interest until 2026 at TD's Fine Furniture in Summerton, Cole and Greg.
All right, let's take tonight's game off the table. I think that would probably be it for everybody. We know that Ohio State, Texas is going to be everyone's Super Sofa game of the week. So if we took that off the table and projected to everything else coming up this weekend, where would you go? For me, Saturday night, 7 o'clock, prime, Steelers at Ravens, AFC North, divisional battle in the wild card of the playoffs, Lamar Jackson versus TJ Watt. That will be my TD's Fine Furniture Super Sofa game of the week.
God, what a pro guy you are. It's all right. I'll bring us back to the college world. Mine is in Dallas, Texas, Arlington, more specifically, my hometown. I'm sure it's well equipped. After many, many years of getting it wrong, I'm sure they are very well equipped to handle the winter storm. It's Ohio State and the Buckeyes playing their best football of the year, the best roster in the sport. Finally peaking, taking on the Texas Longhorns, who have very few questions of their own. They do have a little more inconsistent performance from Ohio State in the last couple weeks, but still their ceiling's as high as anybody. We just haven't gotten it for 60 minutes in this playoff run, and really we've gotten it randomly throughout the year, maybe against Michigan, maybe against Florida, but that's about it. If Texas can put 60 minutes together, this thing's got a chance to be a classic just like last night. It's Ohio State, it's Texas. It's 7:30 Eastern time on ESPN from AT&T Stadium. Should be an awesome game in the college football playoff semifinal.
We already did. Hold on a second now. We already did the Game Day Men's Health Reader. I would talk about brain fog. I don't know if that was like a complete interruption or like just not caring, or like was I on mute? Was I on the air when I started this thing? Like did I even go over the airwaves when I said that like let's remove tonight's game? But just I think
my brain is completely destroyed, dude. The fact
totally
that
understandable.
I don't even know what day it is. So yeah, that one might have gone in one ear out the other.
It's okay. We needed a promo album too. So
apologize in advance and apologize in reverse. Don't care. Survive in advance.
The reverse apology.
Oh man, I'm going to the NFL wildcard weekend Sunday afternoon. We've got Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos taking on Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. The 2-7 spot there in the playoffs. Bo Nix, rookie. Phenomenal rookie year, him and Sean Payton. Can they pull off the upset in Buffalo, New York? I don't know, but we shall see. It's going to be a fantastic matchup, and that would be my TD's Fine Furniture Super Sofa game of the weekend.
As for me, since no one's taken it, I will take Ohio State. No, I'm playing. I will take it to the hardwood because as much as I want to look at one of these NFL games, I have a feeling I could see them all being lopsided. So I'm going to go with Alabama's first conference test as the Crimson Tide travel to College Station to take on the 10th ranked Texas A&M Aggies. That game, 7 o'clock, ESPN, Mark Sears and the Tide roll into College Station, take on 10th ranked Texas A&M, 5v10. That should be a pretty intense matchup for basketball. Give me Alabama, Texas A&M, 7 o'clock ESPN as my TD's Super Sofa game of the weekend. And don't forget that TD's New Year clearance event is happening now. Save up to 50% on name brand furniture for the entire house, bedroom, living room, dining room, even discounts in the Flex Deal store. Plus, pay no interest until 2026 at TD's Fine Furniture in Summerton. Maybe a room to read and find a way to help jog your memory in case it may be needed for someone on the show.
Very possible. Let's get a. That is Greg's Super Sofa game of the week. Let's get our final thoughts on it. Ohio State, Texas tonight. I do think it has a chance to be competitive. I think it'll be a completely different game than we saw last night. But I have concerns about Texas's defense. I have more concerns mainly of what I saw from Arizona State late in that game last week and what they were able to do on the ground, as opposed to what I do, just Jeremiah Smith running wild. Greg's already described the structure and how it'll be different. I just don't think it's going to be enough. And Ohio State, for me, is at that point now where you're going to have to prove it for me to think that you're going to be able to knock them off because of how hot they are, how the D-line's playing, how the offensive weaponry's playing, how Chip's calling plays. I'm going to take Ohio State, but I think it's going to be a little bit closer than people believe, G-Mac.
Yeah, I'm the same page. I think that right now you're kind of getting Texas on sale. I mean, everyone's kind of doubting Texas. Everyone's looking at the performance against Arizona State, and I still don't think Arizona State gets enough credit for how good they are and how capable they are and how well they played at times in that game. So I think that Texas is better than people realize. I think Quinn Ewers, I would be surprised if he doesn't play a fantastic game tonight. I think he's going to play well. I think Texas will have a good plan. I just think Ohio State has a little bit too much firepower. I expect it to be a slightly lower scoring game because I think both defenses will just try to play over the top and try to win in the red zone. But I think it's going to be a little lower scoring, and I lean towards Texas and the points. Just feels like everybody and their brother is on Ohio State. Understandably so, given how they've played the last couple weeks. But, man, I don't know. I think people are kind of sleeping on just how good Texas can be when they play their very best.
All right, John, what are your thoughts on this one tonight?
I think this game is going to play out eerily similar to one we got last night. I think Ohio State is going to come out a little bit stronger than Texas, but I do think it'll be kind of back and forth. I think it'll be a little bit more, a good bit more high scoring than we saw last night. But I think in the end, Texas makes a mistake. Quinn Ewers does something, maybe not as egregiously dumb as Drew Aller, but they make one mistake into that defense, and that gives Ohio State the edge to pull further out of reach to where Ohio State wins the game and sets up a matchup between Notre Dame.
Damien, your final thoughts on this one tonight?
I think Ohio State gets it. I think if you watch Quinn Ewers for the past 4 games, he's had turnovers, and this is a team that you just cannot give another possession to. And I think Ohio State, with the way they've been coming out the gate hot, I think it keeps on rolling against Texas. Give me Ohio State big.
All right, don't forget about our friends at Royal Automotive. They want to change how you're buying a car, trucks, SUVs on the lot. Royal Automotive has what you need. Stop by today. Experience how car buying should be. 4 Royal-owned dealerships at one location. Selection and savings unmatched. Only place to find over 20 unique truck and SUV options in Central Alabama, right there at the corner of I-65, Highway 31 in Vestavia. Volvo XC40, XC60, XC90, 0 down, 0 due at signing, 0 for your first payment now at Royal Automotive. Go to royalautomotive.net and make Royal your first and last stop when car shopping. We will be back Monday. College football playoff continues tonight. 3-man front going to break it down for you. Paul Feinbaum after that. Keep it locked on Jocks.